those top two lights charged up last time, so those are nice and bright. Switched the camera to automatic, so that should be fine.
Okay.
Yeah, we formatted. We're recording. That's plugged in.
Plugged in.
We've got levels.
Levels are good.
And yeah.
I think we're ready to do this thing. 131, huh?
Yes.
That's the one number that I'm reading at the top of the page.
Oh, 131. Oh, sorry. I thought that was the time. No, I'm
no,
like,
it's 2:26.
Yes. Episode 131.
Yes. All right. Ready?
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody, to episode number 131 of the Goulet Pen Cast, where fountain pens are still a thing. I am Brian Goulet.
I'm Drew Brown.
And we're here from Goulet Pens to deliver this casual and informal, tangential and extraneous, superfluous and extemporaneous fountain pen show where we talk about what's going on at the Goulet Pen Company and in our fountain pen lives. In today's show, we're going to be talking about Earth Day, which is coming up, and if we still use ballpoint pens instead of fountain pens, what a travesty. Why we don't talk about Pelikan pens as much, maybe as some other brands like Lamy. What we think about pens that take inspiration from classic pen designs whose maybe patents have lapsed. And should be an interesting conversation there. We're going to have Drew's take on some good next level pens. And Drew will be pulling some deep cut pens out of my collection. And I don't know what they are going to be, but he's going to ask me about them, and I will talk about them from what I can remember from any of the random pens that he pulls. And we're also going to be bringing on Adam, our warehouse manager, in our Meet the Team segment. So we got all kinds of fun stuff packed in for today. Hope you all enjoy this. We're not going to try and beat last week's record, but we'll find out. I wasn't trying to set any kind of record last week either. I don't know if we actually set a record, but it was pretty friggin' long.
Yeah.
Anyway. Here we are. We'll just do this thing. Let's start off with some feedback.
Okay, we've got one this week from Sijal Ahmad.
What's up?
Thanks, Brian and Drew. Loved your points on keeping an analog experience intact and why shoehorning tech if it's not solving any problem. Tech hasn't replaced paper books or watches, but they sure have created a niche. Given companies, small entrepreneurs at pen shows, tested with weird materials / design that were never commercialized, no big company even tried to test the market with tech-enabled fountain pens. Yeah. We talked a little bit about tech and fountain pens and whether or not they're going to blend together well, and kind of decided that fountain pens are as popular as they are because they are analog.
I would say the most like tech and analog writing instrument thing that I've seen has been like the tablet pencil, like an Apple Pencil type thing.
Someone did mention the Pilot Murex with the clock built into it.
I mean, I guess that's technically a thing. Monograppa's got a little clock in the top of some of their pens too.
That's right,
so
they do.
Is that really tech? I mean, I guess it is at some level.
I guess.
It's not digital tech.
The Murex one was.
The Murex was?
That was a digital clock.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's a thing.
Yeah.
But
I don't know how you would replace the batteries on that, but
I have no idea.
Yeah. Anyway. And then Sanji in P says, when we got married in Croatia in 2012, the registrar / officiant actually handed us her fountain pen, a Pelikan M800, good memory, to sign our names in the registry book. So it was officially a preferable way of signing.
Boom.
And I also don't see any reason why a fountain pen ink would be more difficult to scan than other inks. You found a great format with your current Pencast. It's always like catching up with friends. Keep it up.
Nice.
Yep. I think there actually are certain countries in Europe that still require registrar's ink in order to sign certain legal documents. It's still a thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I learned that. Black Tauna says, I don't post my... This one's hard for me to get through. I don't post my Pilot Elites, also known as the E95S, or my Schoen Pocket 6, or Kavekos.
Wow,
I don't post at all, actually.
Wow.
Hilariously, my Pocket 6 is always inked up with Robert Oster Blue Water Ice as well.
I mean, you got good taste in ink at least.
I'm so eager to get a Monarch, maybe at the DC Pen Show. And Ian is a delight, and I'm in Philadelphia, so represent.
Hey.
The Cosmos is a trippy place, as referenced in your fun fact.
Yes, it really is.
So those are some tiny pens to not post.
That's amazing.
That is, I mean, I know they're out there, people who just never post no matter how small the pen is, but still, like...
It almost feels like you're like dedicated to not posting.
Like not posting a Pocket 6. Like that's tiny.
I mean, it can be done.
It can be done. It can be done.
I can't do it, but it can be done.
Finally, Gummy Bear 1972 says, I loved meeting Ian Schoen in this episode. I have not really taken interest in his pens until watching him passionately discuss his business and then pursuing the pens on his website, or perusing the pens on his website. I also really like the in-depth discussion and demo of that cool Monarch nib.
Yeah.
I'm going to see if I can save my pennies and get myself one someday.
That's awesome. Now, since we shot that, we are now out of the Monarch nibs. We didn't have a lot of them to begin with, but...
It's just something fun.
Yeah, but, I mean, you can retrofit those onto any Schoen pen, I believe.
Yep.
So you can always get the Monarch nib directly from Ian Schoen and then put it on whatever pen if you want. So, you know, we're going to talk to Ian and try to offer them in the future. We don't have any, like, firm plans on that, but I would imagine if that's amicable to him and... y'all want them, we would try to offer those in the future. But for now, you got to get them right through Ian. Cool. All right, I got some feedback. Oh, boy. Plenty of it. All right. This
one I wouldn't have normally put on here because it's long, but I found that it was really interesting info.
Mm-hmm.
So
I also don't know how to pronounce this handle.
Mephistopheles.
Mephistopheles. There you go. It's hard to read it if you're just looking at it for the first time. All right. I just wanted to note something for Brian. Oh, yes, this is good. Okay. Paper sizing and glossiness are different things that are applied at different points during the paper making process. This is helpful. This is one of the situations where like someone is smarter and knows more than me. And it's like, yes, please.
I was really excited to
clarify.
read this.
Yeah. Sizing is a chemical added to the paper pulp slurry at the beginning. So this is before paper is paper. It's in basically all writing or printing papers, whether they're glossy or not. Its purpose is to act as a bit of a resist to keep the ink from bleeding too much and to add some body to the paper. Traditionally, it was starch, just like as used in laundry, but I'm sure there are other chemicals used as well today. Sizing does help with a smooth finish to the paper, though, as it kind of fills in the gaps between the fibers. Okay, so it gives it body, but it's not like going on top of the paper per se.
Like breadcrumbs in a crab cake.
Sure. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it's like the
filler,
the gluten that holds it all together. Yeah, like
or like
gluten
eggs in
eggs in a baking good.
Yes.
I guess. Sure. Let's see here. Where was I? Craft paper is an example of something that's generally unsized. Okay. Glossiness is imparted after the pulp has been pulled from the tank and run through rollers to squeeze most of the water out and reach nearly the final paper thickness. So you start out with a slurry. Mm-hmm. It's got a lot of water and other stuff in it.
So you roll it.
So then you need to roll it and squeeze that water out get into a sheet form, I guess. Let's see here. Glossiness is imparted after the pulp has been pulled from the tank and run through the rollers to squeeze most of the water out. I just read that. It's a coating on top of the paper and, in fact, can be on just one side of the sheet, making C1S, or coated one-side papers. Now, maybe some papers you can buy and it's got that designation, but maybe we never see that designation because we don't have paper that's coated one side. It's always coated on both sides.
I've always assumed. I've never looked for that denotation. I've never seen an opposite side of the paper perform differently, so I would draw that conclusion.
Interesting. I mean, you can see that with like a book jacket or something, right? So it's like the sleeve of a jacket or whatever. Like it'll be like maybe different on one side than the other.
Would it actually have that notation on it?
I don't think so. I don't know. Maybe when you buy it in like more of its like bulk form, it has that. I don't know. These are all new things to me. So traditionally this was done using a thin watery clay coating. I have heard of clay coatings to help with the smoothness of the paper coating. Anyway, watery clay coating that's somewhat like a porcelain slip that was spread on the sheet and polished to a shine. Nowadays, it's usually a resin coating that's more flexible and can be formulated to specific uses. Yeah, wow. So there's just a lot involved in making paper that's like...
Honestly, though, while that did seem like a lot, I think Mephistopheles here actually was pretty concise.
Yeah.
Considering everything that's packed in here.
You covered a lot of ground.
Yeah. But I actually understood it. And honestly, the big thing that I take away from this is that sizing and coating are two different things.
Yeah.
And I've always kind of like never really known that.
I got your analogy right here. So if you're baking a cake, since we got to talking about baked goods, you bake the cake, right? You got the cake of the cake, the breading part there. But that's like the sizing. But then the coating is like the frosting you put on the cake, right? Yeah. Maybe?
And the sizing is actually integrated within the batter.
Yeah.
Or the slurry, the cake slurry.
There you go. Okay. So
we're getting there.
Something like that. Sure.
Thank you, Mephisto.
That's my understanding of it, but that is very helpful. The difficult thing about all this, even though we've been selling paper from the very beginning, there's no like information from basically any of our paper suppliers about how paper is made. Like we literally have no more tools to understand this than you all do just by Googling and stuff like that.
And clearly we've Googled less than you.
Well, so. you know your stuff, clearly. But yeah, it is complicated. Making paper is complex, more than you'd think. And it's also a very smelly process for anybody who's ever lived or gone near a paper mill.
Oh, yeah.
It's not known as being one of the pleasant places to live near.
No.
All right. Jennifer says, I love this podcast. Oh, I love that this podcast is so educational, even if it's not coming from us. It's coming from a viewer. Thank you. She didn't say that, but, I inferred it. Fountain pens, video games, tools, manufacturing, music, gardening, and now astrophysics. The vastness of the universe is almost unfathomable. Thanks for all the deep dives. You're very welcome, Jennifer.
Glad that Jennifer considers video game talk educational.
I think you can
You're
have
welcome.
Education. I think you can have education around anything.
That's right.
Definitely. All right. And then FG Tortiz. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but I use the artist glove all the time. So I mentioned this last week. The glove that covers your two fingers and your side of your hand here. I use it all the time when using specialty papers, watercolor, colored pencils, pastels, etc. That makes a lot of sense because that's all very smeary stuff. They are good for tablets, digital art, as it prevents the screen being activated where you do not want it. That is also really smart. It definitely works for fountain pen use. There are some fountain pen papers that are prone to absorb oils more than others. I see you, Regalia paper. You were just talking about that last time.
I mentioned Cosmo Air Light. I haven't.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
I haven't written with Regalia paper enough to.
I believe they're pretty similar.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it though. But I haven't encountered the oil issue.
Okay. Yeah. It says I definitely use the gloves for those. They're thin and fit anywhere if traveling. So I think we had a bunch of people mention these gloves. A bunch of people mentioned that they were going to go get some of these gloves.
Yep.
Which is cool. I mean, we don't sell them, but like I think you can get them at a lot of different art stores and stuff like that. And I'd literally never seen them or heard of them until I researched it for last week.
I've never seen or heard of them until you mentioned it either.
Maybe I'll actually go find one and try it. I don't know. Because I have very oily hands. I do run across that sometimes, but I usually just slip another piece of paper underneath.
Yeah.
But I would imagine if I was writing a lot.
We also had somebody write in and say that they use our brochure that's included in our packaging for putting that underneath as a little guard between your wrist and your paper.
Our brochure is both sized and coated very heavily.
Very heavily, yes. Some people use, thin rickshaw things to set under there and write.
That works.
That.
Yeah.
So
and you can literally use almost anything flat, pretty much. Cool. Good stuff. All right, that's the feedback we got this week. I think we have some new things to talk about.
Oh, we do.
All right. I am going to be very bougie this week talking about some nice, classy maquies. So these are all Tatcha pens that we have in. Tatcha has been cranking some amazing Mach-E pens for the last year or two. They've really been they've been on it because they hit their 20-year anniversary and they've kind of just kept on going with these pens. So first one I have is the Tachia Miyabi in the Wajima Blue. This is a $2,500 pen, which seems like a lot, but when you look at what you're getting a lot of cool stuff with it. I mean, Tachia in general, their Mach-E that you're going to get is, I think very attainable, I would say. Like a little more on the affordable side, if you can say,
comparatively
like for
speaking,
the value.
absolutely.
Yeah. And they've got nibs that are made by Sailor in Japan. They're Tachia branded nibs. 18 karat gold, nice writing, bicolored nib on this one. Looks really good. This is on an ebonite base. So yeah, it's in autumn monsoon. And it's got a turquoise background with specks of black and gold. Looks pretty tight.
It's pretty pen.
And they've only got 100 of these. So this is a little more than they've made of some of their other ones. A lot of their anniversary ones they did was only like 20 of them. So this one's, there's a few more of them. So if you're into that, go check it out. We also have the Tachia Empress. This is the larger pen, the Shin Sugaru Nuri. So it's in two colors. You got it in red and in blue. Urushi lacquer, and you got quail eggshell, some rod and Mach-E inlay, very intricate kind of stuff. This, I really dig this look. One of the Tachia pens that I have, oh my gosh, I'm going to fail to remember the name of it, but it's like 90% eggshell. Do you remember? It was like one of the first.
Was it like Winter's Breath
exclusive,
or something like that?
Yeah, I think it's Winter's Breath. Yeah. I've got one of those.
I
kept it because I was like, this is,
oh yeah,
it's just like 90% eggshell and like 10% rotten.
But then they came out with the Empress version, and you were
they did come out with the Empress version. I didn't know they were going to do the Empress version, and I was like, I kind of want to get the bigger one, but that's okay. This is where I do cut myself off on the pens, is with these really high-end pens.
That's more than I could do. I would be.
It's
if I could just like write off pens for myself, it'd be bad.
Yeah, I do that, and it is bad, but I do have a limit somewhere. This has got the King of Pens nib, so the big honking nib, beautiful. This one's only limited to 20 per color, so this one, if you're interested, maybe jump on it. Then we have another Tachia Miyabi Shin Sugaru Nuri. This is the non-Empress version. Yeah, so this one's the Empress version, the bigger one, is $2,500. The smaller one,
the
Miyabi, so that one's got a slightly smaller nib as well. Still good, still 18 karat gold. That one is $1,800. So similar look to it, but also the Empress is a pretty big pen. It's not going to be comfortable for everybody. So that smaller one might be suitable for you.
And it's almost $1,000 cheaper. So.
It really is, but it's essentially the reason it costs more is because the pen is bigger and it just takes so much more time for the artist to do it. Yeah. But, totally up to you. Go check them out. If you're not interested in buying them, you should at least go look at them because they look pretty unreal and very special pens. So that's what I got this week. What about you, Drew?
I'm going to repeat a little bit because we did talk about the Platinum Izumo pens last episode. We actually did not get them in last week when we thought they would be in, but as of right now, when you're hearing this, they are in, they are available. So just as a reminder, they're only $796 for a fully Urushi Platinum Izumo pen with the President nib, and those come in three colors. Akatame, which is kind of a black with a little bit of red highlight, Biwatame, which is the same thing with a beige highlight, and then Soratame, which is green highlight amidst the black. So they're understated Urushi with only the colors.
Very different than the Tachia ones.
Very different.
Tachia ones are like in your face Mach-E.
In your face. So this is not really Mach-E as much as it is just Urushi because there's no designs. It's a black pen with certain areas of the pen kind of polished out so you can see an underlying color of either beige, red, or green. So I really love these, and at $796, this is comparable to something not unlike a Homo sapiens, but
or like a Pilot Custom 845.
Exactly.
It's
so
like in that range.
Honestly, a pretty great price for what you're getting. So anyway, we talked about them, but now they're available. Go check them out. Good images now.
Well, it's got that nib too. That
President
nib.
Yes, sir. Love it. And the Visconti Il Magnifico line is getting another addition to its lovely history. This one in Calicata Gold. So this is a marble pen, as all Il Magnifico pens have been. This one is selling for $2,076, and only 188 have been made. So this is the seventh Il Magnifico, Brian.
Is it really the
Would you have guessed 7?
I would have guessed around that, but
I probably would have guessed 5 or 6, I think. I don't
Yeah,
know if
maybe,
I don't know if I would have
maybe.
gone to 7.
yeah.
But it is a white marble with gold veining. So this is what is referred to as Calicata Macchia Oro marble. And this is a type of Carrara. I don't know how to say Carrara without sounding either a really, really American
It sounds pretty
or
weird
such
and
a poser
Americanized,
of
yeah.
Italian. Because I'm not going to say like Carrara, because that sounds stupid too.
That sounds stupid. That sounds more
But
appropriate to how it's supposed to
I
be.
think it sounds insulting because it sounds like I'm mocking them. And I don't want to do
That
that
is really
either.
weird. That is a weird
It's like, how can I say
American thing.
Carrara without just completely losing?
You can't win. You can't win either
I can't
way.
win.
Yeah.
Carrara. No.
That's like
I don't
how it
know.
should
That's
sound.
I know,
but, yeah.
but not for me.
You feel like we're one of those news anchors that's like overemphasizing the like
Yeah.
native tongue,
Oh,
kind of
I don't want to be that guy. But anyway.
That's all right.
Carrara marble with gold veins quarried in the Apuan Alps in Italy. So they get this marble from Italy as well. So double wow.
Pretty cool.
So
And the pen really is marble. It's pretty heavy.
literally heavy duty.
Yeah.
So that is available now. Check it out. If you ever do just get your hands on an Il Magnifico, it's something
It's pretty bad.
pretty
It's pretty
special.
rad. Yeah.
If you ever happen to be at a pen show and you can just get your hands on one, it's an experience.
Have you ever seen the Saturday Night Live skit with Fred Armisen doing the he's doing like I don't know if it's a Jersey or like a Long Island accent. I can't remember either way, but it's about marble columns.
Oh yes,
He's like, you got to get yourself some marble
I
columns.
have seen that. It just popped up on Instagram
yeah.
for me like last week.
Oh yeah.
I'd never seen it before, but
Rachel and I saw that like live
Like when it
when
was
it came
new?
on, and
Oh,
it was
wow.
like the funniest thing. I have a lot of relatives in like the New York, Connecticut area that kind of talk like that.
nice.
So I just died laughing when I saw it. And they did several follow-ups with it, including like porcelain fountains and chandeliers.
I
They
think I
did
might
that
have
one
seen
too.
the porcelain fountains.
Yeah,
That
they
sounds
had
familiar.
let's see here, they had Ryan Reynolds on a couple of them, and they had what's her name? Shoot. Anybody who knows the skit is like yelling right now because they always have this one actress do the skits as well. Oh, I can't remember. It's killing me. Who is
Is it Kristen Wiig?
No.
Kate McKinnon?
No, she's not a cast member.
Oh.
I'll find it. I'll
Okay.
find it. But anyway, it's a really funny skit. It just made me think of it.
Speaking of really funny skits, the Schaefer 300. This has been a big hit for us. Schaefer really did come back into our fold with a bang.
Scarlett Johansson.
Oh, here we go. Scarlett
I was like,
Johansson.
she's married to the guy that does the updates and the stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, this is
She
before
is.
they were married, I think. I don't know. Anyway, sorry, totally interrupted, but there you go.
We now have the Schaefer 300 available in matte green. Hey,
Sweet.
we had it in matte blue. It looks lovely. Now it's available in matte green. So
I will
hooray
say
for
the
that.
matte green, it's got like a little bit of like sparkle to it.
Oh, does it?
It's not just a straight up matte. Yeah, like Glenn was pointing that out earlier when he was
didn't see
photographing
that.
it. Yeah, he was like, yeah, it's not straight up matte. He's like, it's got a little something special to it. So
Sparkle matte.
I'll have to look at his images once he's done it. It should look pretty good. But
Well,
the Schaefers, they're like, they're hanging in there. They're decent pens for
odds are you will have seen the image overlaid.
Oh, that
So
is
like
true.
you are now more educated than I am. So congratulations.
Well, you will have seen it by the time you put it in there to be
Yeah, but
put in
this,
the video.
this version of Drew though that they're seeing, he
That's
has no
right.
idea.
Yeah,
Complete
true.
ignorance. All right, so that's $72. Schaefer pens have been priced really, really affordably. So check those out.
Yeah,
That's it for new stuff.
awesome. Let's do one quick company update. One company update that we have this week. It's kind of a conventional week for us here, but we have a video that we got out of this guy doing top 5 German pens.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
Yeah.
out. You can go watch it now. And we'll have more videos coming because we just shot another batch of them. All right, let's move on to some Q&A. All right, Drew,
Okay.
we're trucking right along here.
Yeah, we are.
Let's do it.
Let's talk to Sack of Clams. Shall we?
Okay, I love it.
All right. Sack
love
of
it.
Clams says, do you still use ballpoints sometimes, or do you think a fountain pen can actually completely replace ballpoints in a person's life?
Interesting. Yes, it can
Wait.
replace ballpoints.
Yes to do you still use them, or yes to do you think you can still replace?
So let me nuance this answer a little bit. I don't. How do I want to phrase this? I'm not a snob about it. Like if I'm at a doctor's office and they have me sign something real quick.
Yeah.
And they hand a pen and there's a pen with it. I'm not going to be like, oh, excuse me, let me get out my fountain pen. I'm not going to like make a scene about it.
Yeah,
you know
if you're
what I mean?
signing in and they've got the clipboard
If it's
out.
a quick thing or if it's like a receipt at a restaurant or something, okay, I'll just sign it with whatever and get on with my life.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to have to like fill out a form at the doctor's office and I got to sit down, it's going to take a few minutes, I'll pull out my fountain pen because I'm like, I don't want to sit here and write with a crappy ballpoint. Like I'll sign it if it's quick and get out of the way. But if I have a choice about it and I don't have to make a scene, I'll use a fountain pen pretty much every time. You know, so I keep one in my pocket. I have one in my bag, many in my bag at all times pretty much. So there's really not a situation that I run into very often where I don't have a fountain pen pretty accessible to me that I can just use it. And I don't run across situations very often where a fountain pen won't work on the type of paper that I'm trying to use either. So pretty much most of the time I'm able to use a fountain pen and I have very few ballpoints in my life whatsoever. But honestly, I was a little bougie about that before I even got into fountain pens because I converted most of my life over to roller ball pens. I've never loved ballpoint pens. Even in school growing up, before I really knew anything about any type of writing instruments, I liked the Pilot Precise, which is a roller ball that now we know more about it, uses basically fountain pen ink. So I always liked the smoothness and like the liquid ink thing. So I naturally gravitate towards that anyway. So basically it's like if I have no other option or if it's extremely convenient and I can just use whatever is handed to me, I'll use a ballpoint, but I never enjoy it. And I just don't draw a lot of attention to it. But yeah, I mean, I think fountain pens can replace, you know, most pens in people's lives, especially today, so much is digital. So anytime you are writing something on paper, it's a fairly intentional act anyway. Like I can't remember the last time I had to like go to the bank and write something down with a pen. I mean, it's been, and I wrote in business too, it's been at least a decade since I've had to do that. You know what I mean?
So
so
how
it's
often
like
do you even fill out a check these days?
very rarely. The only time I'll do that is like if I'm getting charged a fee for a credit card on something and I'm like, I could just write a check instead and save that cost, you know? So like then I might write a check, you know, or if it's like I'm trying to pay some, you know, county tax thing and like their website's being weird and I can't log it in or I'm like, this seems so sketchy. I don't want to put my credit card in that site. Then I might write a check to something like that. But even then I'll use a fountain pen, you know, why not? So yeah, I run into very few situations where I'm like, yeah, ballpoint, this is the answer for me because I don't know. At this point, it's just habit and I have them around all the time. But it's very possible to do that and not be greatly inconvenienced in your life.
Yeah, I actually don't have a pocket pen. I don't actually carry a pen in my jean pocket. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think most people are probably that way, right?
Yeah, I just like I'm always like on the floor with the dogs and my kid and
yeah, that makes sense.
And it's just like even sometimes my folding knife, if it's one of the longer ones, can be a little bit too much for my pocket because I don't do the cargo short, so I don't have like.
You got to be selective about.
Because even when you sit down, if you have a you know average length pen in your pocket, you feel it. It starts getting pokey and stuff. And, so it's just kind of like sitting down with your phone. Like you can do it, but it like you feel it. You know,
that's part of why. I mean, again, I talk about this pen too much, but that's why I have the Travelers as the pocket pen because I literally do not feel it or think about it.
Yeah.
Until I need a pen, and I'm like, oh yeah, I've got that pen right here.
What I might need to do is just add a fourth pen to my thing and just have it always. Oh my gosh. Always have the Travelers pen or something like that.
Wow.
You know, what I'd probably do. I'd probably pick the Pilot Stargazer. That would probably be my.
Oh, that's such a nice pen, though.
I know.
Like, would you want to just clip that thing onto your pocket?
No, not.
But you could have a pocket pen and keep it in a little sleeve, like a little rickshaw sleeve.
Yeah.
You know, especially Stargazer, get that little mini sleeve.
But then sometimes, like if it goes too deep in your, side pocket, then when it gets really uncomfortable.
Then it can get sideways on you.
Yeah, exactly. So like what you're doing, like with the knife, like that stays up, so it's less of an issue. So because I've done that before, and if I do pocket a pen, it's usually a Retro 51 rollerball. Because I can, those are the clips are very resilient. I can keep them up. You know, they can go in jeans pretty easily.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm hesitant to say that a fountain pen can replace a rollerball in all aspects of my life. I say rollerball because I'm not touching a ballpoint pen. No, forget that.
So we're both kind of on the same page.
Yeah. No, God, no. If anything, I'll deal with a rollerball. But I keep a Retro 51 in my car, just at all times. and I keep one with like my knives and my watches and my lucky coins and all that stuff. Anything, all the crap I put in my pocket every morning. I keep several Retro 51s there if I want to carry a pen that day.
Okay.
And I usually do that on the weekends because here, like on a weekday, I know I'm coming here, so I'm like, I know I'm going to have pens.
You have no trouble finding a pen around this office, yeah.
So, but if I'm like, going out and about, you never know when I'll need a pen. So I usually do grab a Retro.
Okay.
And the car Retro gets used so much because as a parent of a 10-year-old, we very often attend birthday parties.
I was literally just thinking that.
And we go to Target on the way to the birthday party to pick up the toy and the card.
We did that this weekend.
That's how it goes, man. That's how it goes.
Joseph had a birthday party, and it was like, oh yeah, present. That's a thing.
I'm sure, and I know that people do that on their way to our house. If we're having a birthday, that's just how it goes. When you're a parent, your kid has no idea what this other kid wants. You go and you say, like, what do you think they like? I don't know. Target gift card, like I don't know. I think they like Minecraft. Like, okay, let's go find a Minecraft thing.
I will say that's gotten better now with my kids as they've gotten older. Yeah. They have a tighter group of friends. It's not like where it's like you're in elementary school and it's like, well, you have to invite everybody to the class, and then you're like having this group of kids that they don't even know each other. But now it's like much more intentional. Like my kids have like their own like tight friend group.
Yeah, he knows some of them, but maybe half of them he has no clue.
Well, that's fair.
But you get a fountain pen in the car and you open up that birthday card from Target. Whether or not that fountain pen is going to be fine, catastrophic, or merely decent is just totally luck of the draw.
Especially if it's just left in the car all the time.
Yeah.
Because if it gets hot and temperature swings.
Even if
and
you
all
brought
that.
it with you, though, birthday cards are such a wild card.
True.
And
are you talking like the paper that you're going to run into?
Like,
that's true.
And then you don't know until you start. And then you're like, oh, crap, I shouldn't have done this. And then it either smears like crazy and never dries. When you close it and open it, you got,
depends how much coating and sizing it has on it, I guess.
I guess Shannon's signature looks all nice. Archer's signature is fine. But then Drew, who had to use a fountain pen, looks just like a smeared mess.
Okay, I can see that.
Because he had to use a fountain pen. So now I'm just like, you know what?
That's a good point.
I'm using my Retro in my car.
The card, not just like birthday, but like any type of greeting cards. That is like fountain pen roulette.
It is.
Like you really don't know what's going to happen.
No, and it's not worth it. Like you're just going to write your freaking name. Like it doesn't really matter. So those I'm rollerball all the time with greeting cards.
Okay.
Now if I'm sending out cards, I get to pick the envelope. I get to
okay. So it's not like a pre-designed whatever card.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'll be intentional and I'll pick a pen, and I'll make it look nice. But if it's just something we're signing for a kid's birthday party, like, no.
You know what I found as a nice little life hack? Because greeting cards are expensive, even at like Target and places.
So bad.
Five Below, $1 a card.
That's not bad.
And that's not like the biggest selection, but they've got.
I mean, for a kid's birthday party,
for a kid birthday,
kids do not care about.
If you can spend $1 instead of $6, heck yeah, man! So hit up Five Below for some cheap greeting cards.
That's a good idea. So I'll do that. And also another reason I like to carry weekend rollerballs, I feel this never happens, but when it does, if I go into a restaurant that has paper tablecloths and I can draw on that tablecloth and I don't have a pen with me and Archer's just got his crayons or whatever, I'm so disappointed because I love drawing on a paper tablecloth.
Oh, interesting.
And if I've got a nice rollerball, I'm like, oh yeah, how many Batmans and Ninja Turtles is this thing going to have? A lot.
And they're like, what child was sitting at this table?
Me! So I love...
What restaurants are you going to where they've got paper tablecloths? Oh, okay.
Food for thought every time.
Interesting.
Yeah, man. They've got paper tablecloths.
I didn't remember that. I haven't been there in years.
Yep.
But okay.
They've got it. It's one of my favorite restaurants.
Huh.
And every now and then you'll come across another one.
Yeah.
I believe we went to Bonefish Grill not too long ago in Short Pump, and they had them too.
They do paper on that? Huh.
I believe so. I could be wrong, but
I guess they have a lot of seafood and lobster and like.
And also, like, if Archer's bored and he does all the little activities on his kids' menu, and the back is totally empty, and I'm like, hey, buddy, here you go. And I hand him a rollerball, like, I feel like I'm winning a prize because he's like, yes, now I can create.
That's awesome.
Now the world is my oyster and I can just.
There you go.
So, yeah, I do like carrying a rollerball for those reasons as well.
Cool.
But yeah, but for the most part, if I'm actually writing more than a sentence, fountain pen, of course.
Yeah, that's where I'm like, like kind of like what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
if I have to write long enough where it's like I'm actually experiencing the writing and not just like trying to move on with whatever thing I'm doing, I will very quickly be like, I want a better pen than
Even if I'm running around like taking notes in the warehouse on product codes, I'll still use a fountain pen because brings me peace and helps me regulate my day. But
there you go.
Yeah.
Nice. What about you all? Let us know in the comments what situations you run into where you will find a non-fountain pen marginally acceptable. Or, I mean, we've definitely had people reach out before that are like,
Never.
if I get a receipt at a restaurant, I will whip out my fountain pen and make it a thing and let that server know. And then they want to try it. And I'm like, more power to you. I've done that in the past, but maybe I'm just, feels like I'm bringing work home, I guess, if I have to do that too much. But anyway. All right. I got a question for you, Drew.
Okay.
This is from Julian Gunther. Says, apart from advertising new editions, Pelikan pens don't seem to be very much on your mind. Or at least that's the impression I got watching the Pencast for some months now. Would you agree? And if so, how come Pelikan pens don't get a whole lot of airtime on the Pencast compared to, say, Lamy, for example? Thanks, guys. What do you think, Drew?
Oh, I agree. We don't talk about Pelikan nearly as much as we talk about Lamy. Like that's a fact for sure. Now, if you look at our selection of Lamy and our selection of Pelikan, Lamy, you just
Very
find
different,
more.
yeah.
So if we're talking about like, hey, what's a good purple pen for me? There are, at least 2 Lamys that we can talk about. There are 0 Pelikans that we can talk about. There's no Pelikan that's purple right now. So let's say, let's see, what about a, something with an, removable nib? Okay, we can talk about Lamy, can't talk about Pelikan. So just statistically, if one brand has a lot more products, those are just going to have more of a likelihood to get brought up, whereas Pelikan, we have fewer of them. And we don't just eliminate products without reason. If it's not selling and we haven't moved a single product in like 90 days or more, like, all right, well, no one wants this, so why would we keep carrying it? So unfortunately, that has happened with Pelikan here and there. The Twist, for example, was a lower cost Pelikan that we've tried twice now, maybe 3 times, maybe twice. I think the Pelicano we tried 3 times.
We've tried the Pelicano Junior.
Yeah.
We've tried the Script.
And they just don't sell.
A bunch of them. Yeah.
So and we're pretty. We would like for them to. We give them a lot of time, but unfortunately, so right now we just have the Souverain series, the 200s, the 600s, the 800s, and the 1000s. We currently do not have any 400s. And I will say this though, M600 Glauco Kanban. I will talk about that pen all day long because that is a freaking amazing pen. It is $632, but amazing gold nib and a simply gorgeous barrel. Like, so if you want me to talk about a Pelikan, I will talk about that Pelikan. It's
very different than what they've done.
Oh my God, it's so beautiful. I want that pen so bad. It is such a gorgeous freaking pen. But yeah, like another thing, the Souverain series tend to kind of be one of 2 versions. You've got a centerpiece that is either striped or a centerpiece that is either kind of swirly looking. That's kind of it. Yeah. And then the rest of
all the different models are more or less just different sizes. Yeah. Like the nibs are slightly different and stuff like that. But like it's so established and it's been around a long time. There's just not as much like new stuff to talk about, which I think is part of the argument
and
here.
And they really just switch out that centerpiece to a different sort of color and different material.
Yeah. Which is cool.
Yeah, it's fine.
They look nice.
A company like Sailor also does the same thing in different sizes. You've got the Pro Gear, the Pro Gear Slim, and the King of Pens Pro Gear. You could say, hey, that's all the same pen. Why are they so much more popular? They still put out a ton of pens. So if they had the same selection that Pelikan had over the course of time that Pelikan has had them, they might find themselves in the same position.
Oh, yeah,
but they don't. They churn and burn. Like they keep coming out with stuff, and they come out with they take a lot of risks with their colors. And some of them don't work, to be frank. Some of them don't. But some of them really, really do. And when they do, they become that pen that this person has to have. So by kind of, rolling out some new colors, interesting and risky combinations, you're going to at some point hit somebody's bullseye. And Sailor has been doing that. Pelikan, not so much, except for the Glauco Kanban. That hit my bullseye hard. So,
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, like, since you're talking about Sailor, I mean, if you look at Sailor, like more of the standard, I mean, they have a zillion colors, but just like they're plain black with gold trim, black with rhodium trim, whatever, we don't sell those at all. Like no one's interested in those. Even some of them are a little lower price because they're older and, they haven't increased the prices on some of those older ones. Still, nobody buys them. So it's really not just a Pelikan thing. It's like this for a lot of other brands too. The standard pens that have been around for years that everybody likes and is kind of aware of. A lot of people that really enjoy them might already have them, or, the things that's more exciting is I want that same pen format, but in a new color, something interesting, And so, yeah, we don't talk about it as much because they've just been around for so long. There's not as much to say anymore. It's all been talked about.
Yeah, and they just don't fit the bill. I did bring one up when we talked about Disney-themed pens. I did pick one of them, the blue and the white one, for a Sleeping Beauty pen or something like that. So every now and then it happens, but just statistically, without a large library, there are fewer opportunities that they're going to organically come up in conversation. But Brian and I both think that they're fantastic pens, and I do kind of wish that the M400 had more models come out, because that one is the one that is positioned price-wise amidst like the Pilot Custom 823. Yeah, gold nib, piston. So I do kind of wish that one was more prevalent. The M600 is a little bit more up there.
They haven't come out with as many M400s. And I will say, like, from a, it's not, look, we're a for-profit company. So, like, if y'all don't want these pens and don't want to buy them, we're not just going to carry them and talk about them if no one buys them, So we do have to pay attention to what it is that people desire. Not to say that, like, we're only talking about pens to sell them, but, like, we're a retailer. That is kind of a part of how this works. But again, kind of the way we I don't want to say get around that, but part of the way that you can, like, trust that whatever it is we're talking about is, like, most of the pens we're talking about are ones that we carry. It's like one or the other. So it's like, if you are interested in any of these, if you buy one or the other, it's whatever makes you happy. So it's not like we're picking one brand like Pelikan, being like, oh, we're dogging that one. We'll sell you Pelikan if you want Pelikan, but we legitimately have tried to carry a lot of their standard line before, and it's just not as popular. So
even the M1000's like such an iconic pen, and a lot of it has to do with every retailer has a different set of customers. There's always overlap for sure, but our customers love bright, crazy colors. They really do. We see a ton of success with Sailor's bright, crazy colors. We see a ton of success with Banu's bright, crazy colors. You look at a brand like Ferris Wheel Press. Like, right now, the way the market is, people like designs and colors and pens that have a personality that they can connect with.
At least for us in the US.
Yeah.
It is very different in Europe. There's some brands where it's like, we want, like, ST DuPont is another one that's like, it's just not that popular here in the US.
It's an amazing pen.
It's great quality, but it's like,
incredible.
It kind of falls in the same category a little bit.
I believe that Pelikan is hugely popular in Japan.
Really? In Japan? Okay. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. Aurora too, from what I understand. So
okay, it is really interesting to see what brands are popular in different regions of the world. That is very, very interesting. Yeah. But Pelikan's great quality pens. Like, we've never had the ones that are like the much lower price ones. Some of them have been hit or miss. Like, but that's like really a different kind of category. It's like comparing, like, maybe it's not the best example, but comparing like a Metropolitan or like a Parallel or something like that to a Custom 823 or something like that. It's like, yeah, they're both Pilot, but they're like two very different kind of classes of pen. Pelikan's got that going on too, with like their like more like kid pen, like their everyday kind of collection, versus the Subrons. That's kind of a different league.
Now, I will say they have come out with some more affordably priced sub $200 fountain pens, some sub $100 fountain pens that do seem interesting. So we haven't tried any yet. We tried the Pelicano Junior, the Twist, and the Script. There are some that exist out there, and some new ones that are coming out that we've seen on their website. So the possibility always exists that we could bring more on, but we'd love to hear your interest. We'll keep our ear to the ground as far as what community sentiment seems to be looking like. We are here to serve you. So if you will buy it, we will sell it. So if you have any thoughts on that, or if you've had the opportunity to use one of these kind of lower priced Pelikan pens and you think it'd be worth our time, please let us know, because I will definitely check it out.
There you go. Cool.
All right. We've got question number 3 coming to us from Samantha, and this is an easy one that's not complicated or nuanced at all. Samantha says, there are a number of great pens, including the Lamy 2000 and Pilot Vanishing Points, whose patents have expired. And there has recently been a popular trend by certain brands making pens inspired by famous pens with similar body styles, mechanisms, etc. Personally, I have and love several inspired by pens, but I also own the originals and can appreciate each for what it is. Business matters aside, how do you guys feel about these kinds of pens? Are they abominations to be shunned, or budget options bringing classic pen designs to us lowly peasants who just can't drop hundreds of dollars into a gold nib legendary pen? Do you see them as competing with classics in the marketplace, or turning people on to classic designs and inspiring a desire for the originals? Very well worded question, Samantha. I appreciate that.
Yeah, this is it's got a lot here we could unpack.
It's meaty.
Yeah.
It's one of those things I should have been like, Brian, do you want to talk about this? But I didn't.
Nope, you didn't. He just threw me right into the deep end. That's
sorry.
okay. That's okay. I have a lot of bullet points for this one, Drew. First one I have says it's complicated.
Yes, it is.
I know you say like, business matters aside, but like
You can't
I
really.
can't
Yeah.
fully set this up. I'll try to separate out like my personal opinion versus business. But that is a part of my feelings is I can't separate out, not necessarily like the direct like financial association that we have with the brands that we carry, but just knowing what I know about business and retail and margins and service support and warranty and what manufacturers do and QC and all that kind of stuff, seeing that in the pen industry, it does shape how I think about other products that I buy.
I think that's totally fair. And I think that if you would even ask people in the community that are in no way connected to a retail establishment, a lot of the feelings that go into kind of formulating an opinion on these inspired by brands, knockoff if you want to be rude about it, or insensitive, I don't know, whatever. Those opinions are inspired by, well, how does this affect this community and therefore the industry that my community is attached to? So you do need to take that into account. So I think that's fair.
I think it's a factor. I think it's a factor.
For sure.
I don't think
Absolutely.
I think the what I don't want to do with this question is like oversimplify it and say like one is right and one is wrong.
Yeah.
Because there is nuance to it all. So I will speak to kind of both sides of it. So I really can see both sides of it. Some fountain pens now especially are getting really expensive and are not that affordable to people. And that we have a tough time with because from the very beginning, we wanted to be accessible. We wanted to get fountain pens into people's hands, to have them be relevant to ongoing generations. And that will not happen if fountain pens only just perpetually get more and more and more expensive. That was the case when we first got into fountain pens. I had never used a fountain pen in my life, and I was looking at some of the more expensive pens and just being like, well, that's never going to happen. So I was only looking at the more affordable stuff, and I was not at all thinking about who makes it and what's behind it and all that kind of stuff. It's something that I've learned to appreciate the deeper I've gotten into it. And I think a lot of people feel that way. So I will say, if you're newer to the hobby, if you're not that knowledgeable or not that maybe personally invested into the whole ecosystem of it, you don't really have to like burden yourself that much by like having it on your conscience, to think about these types of things, with the exception of outright counterfeits. I think that if you are buying a product and what you think you're buying is just like too good to be true, like priced too good to be true, just not just fountain pens, but like any product. I know that if I'm out to buy whatever, some tool or something, and I'm like, why is this one a third the price of everywhere else that I'm shopping? I'm like, there is a reason for that. Either it's not legit or it was not acquired by legit means, or there's something else that was like severely cut out that's not healthy for the industry, for the manufacturer, whatever. And I will not support that if I suspect that's going on. I think you need to have somewhat of a conscience about that. But also if you are just, if you only have so many dollars and that's your only option, I'm not going to judge you for that. But if enough people do that, then it's not going to be good overall. Then you're really basically just supporting people who are doing the counterfeiting, and that's not great either. So there is a line there somewhere. So I think there's a line here with like the inspired by pens. I think about like we carry Jinhao. We don't carry all Jinhao pens because some of them are much closer to what I would say is like more of a ripoff of a design. Like there's in the like copyright kind of trademark world, at least as it's defined in the US, and it's like this for a lot of other countries, the main like demarcation for whether you're violating something is it creating confusion in the marketplace around that brand? Are people buying that product thinking they're getting the real thing, but they're actually getting a different product, a knockoff product, whatever.
Like a mockbuster for, your grandmother thinks that she's getting you Kung Fu Panda on DVD, but really it's Chop Kick Panda.
Right. Exactly. And the reason they're making it like that is to mimic and get money from people thinking they're buying the real thing when in fact they're giving a cheaper version of it.
That's a real movie, by the way.
Really?
Chop Kick Panda.
It does not surprise me.
Yeah. I love looking into that, mockbuster titles.
Mockbusters? I've never heard that term.
Well, yeah, they did it a lot in the 90s. I remember going over people's houses and them saying like, hey, I've got Aladdin. I'm like, do you? Because that's like in the theater still. And I look at it, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, it says Aladdin on this VHS cassette. Sure does.
Interesting.
But it ain't.
Interesting.
It's not Disney's Aladdin.
Yeah. I think it's one thing if it's like meant to be sort of a skirt the trademark ripoff kind of a thing versus like actually trying to say it's the real thing.
Yeah.
Like I have a problem with like an Amazon listing that's saying you're getting a Lamy Safari, but it is not a Lamy Safari.
No, that's
like
terrible.
That. Even if it's like, no matter how cheap it is, I'm like, that is just not right. You should not be misrepresenting. But if there is a Jinhao, I forget what model it is. They have a model that's like pretty heavily inspired by a Lamy Safari. Maybe is it Jinhao or is it Hero?
I think that there's several now.
There's several of them now. Yeah, I mean, that would, that pen's run around for a long time. But like if the clip is different, it clearly says the name Jinhao instead of Lamy. It's got some other things on it that are not the same. The nib looks different, stuff like that. I'm like, that I'm a little more like, okay, they're clearly like trying to mimic what the original is, but I don't know. You could make the argument that like to someone new, they might be confused by that design. And so I don't know. That to me, that's the line is it creating confusion in the marketplace? Is it diluting that brand? Because ultimately the original one that came up with it, they took the risk. They did the design. They did all the stuff. So I feel kind of, not super at ease about buying something, no matter the price, personally, if I think that it's trying to essentially like siphon off the original creator, And this is somebody like I grew up, my parents couldn't really afford Legos. So we got a lot of Tyco blocks and Mega blocks and stuff like that. Legos patent lapsed and you would buy off-brand. I never knew that. I mean, it was later on, once I was more aware of that stuff, I looked at my blocks and I was like, oh, these aren't like Lego. These are Tyco. I called them Lego.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, well, my parents did that because we didn't have any money and that was my only choice. But now I'm like, oh yeah. Now with like my kids, I'm like, let's like buy the real thing, because like that's what you're, and it's like, anyway. So I don't know. But again, I don't fault anybody for doing that, especially if it's like new to the hobby. That's your point of accessibility.
We want you to write with fountain pens, and we want you to enjoy writing with fountain pens. So that is good.
It sounds like Samantha here asking the question. If you're buying a pen that sure does mimic a Lamy 2000, but it's clearly not a Lamy 2000, it just looks heavily inspired by Lamy 2000, and you still enjoy writing with it, and you still are into that, I don't necessarily see as much harm in that. I think it is very debatable whether that's good, because you could argue like, yeah, well, if that knockoff pen gets more people into fountain pens or brings awareness of that general design, potentially that could get more people to discover, say, a Lamy 2000 who get more into the hobby. So an argument could be made there, but it's very much like a case-by-case kind of a thing. And, I imagine Lamy probably wouldn't maybe feel the same way about that.
Probably not.
But I get that too. It's like when you see what they go into for R&D, for pens and patents and all that kind of stuff, the costs are immense. That's part of what you pay for is these engineers and designers to come up with these things from scratch. It's kind of like you said with the movies. It's like they're taking huge risks making these movies, and like a lot of production companies will take big swings and then go bankrupt because they blew it all and the movie didn't work. It's like you need a payoff for that risk sometimes. But if all you're doing is knockoffs, then you're going to end up with a bunch of just crappy movies all the time that are unoriginal. So
like Transmorphers.
Is that a thing too?
Yes, it is.
I got to look into these Mockbusters thing. That sounds entertaining. So I would say, we're speaking to two different people here. If you're like hardcore Pencast listener, you're into the fountain pen world, I think you generally know if you're buying like more of a knockoff kind of thing versus the real thing. I will say like being in this business and seeing kind of like every step, everybody's working pretty darn hard in this industry. Nobody is like, sitting around on a couch getting fed grapes by servants kind of a thing, because it's all pretty well working class people, like people that are just working jobs, trying to do pen things. It's not a lavish industry.
From what I've been able to gather, by and large, the majority of people that get involved in the fountain pen industry get involved out of passion, not out of ambition.
Yeah.
It is a very genuinely passionate industry. And there is a lot of these designs are born out of that passion and that love. So I do think that there's a care to be given to that.
Yeah. And so you just kind of have all that knocking around in your head as you're buying this stuff. But I will say, like, with some exceptions, when you're buying like the real deal fountain pen from a company that's like, long established, the brand has done a lot in the industry, I think you can feel pretty good, not just about what you're buying, but who you're supporting by doing that, because that is part of the purchasing choice that you make. Whereas I think you find generally when you're buying those more affordable things, there's a lot more ambiguity about where those pens come from, who's making them, all that. Even when we try to research, we're like, it's very like obfuscated how that's all happening. And that's when you're like, if it's not clear and it's kind of hidden, like where they're coming from and who's making them, like that doesn't make me feel great about what it is you're buying. Because it's like, they may not have the best labor practices and they may not be buying raw materials from the places with the best environmental controls and these types of things. Like that is all kind of what you're paying for. But again, you don't necessarily know all these things. But it's just stuff to think about, not just fountain pens, but really kind of anything. So I did a little bit of research. I'm not a huge like patent knowledgeable person at all. But it seems like in the US, most utility patents, which I think pens kind of fall in this category, go for about 20 years. It's going to be different in every country. But I mean, 20 years is kind of a decent baseline, I guess. So, I mean, if you develop a pen with some unique mechanism or design or whatever, and you got a 20-year run on it, that's a pretty good run. You know what I mean? So I don't necessarily feel like as conflicted about somebody coming out with something where they're like using a similar mechanism to something that was designed 30, 80 years ago, but they're putting it into a different pen that has their own design unique. I have like no qualms with that, because that's fair. You know what I mean? Like
if someone wanted to use more or less the same internal mechanism as the vanishing point, for instance, the pilot capless, but then put that inside of
a differently designed,
a hexagonal, well, no, they used to be faceted originally. Anyway, put that into something that looks more like a Conklin or something like that.
I could make an argument that that's much more fair, because you came up with a design, you had a patent for a particular time frame, the patent is now open, and now other people can make it. But where I draw the line is like, are people thinking that's a vanishing point when it's really not? Yeah. But if you're coming up with a different pen, it just uses a similar mechanism, and you're kind of using some of the technology that was developed on a patent that has lapsed. I have a little less of like an internal conflict about that, because that is kind of a bit more like, that's kind of how it works.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how, it worked with Pelikan having kind of invented the patent on the piston filler. And now everybody uses that.
Right. Right.
So
that's true. I think like even the classic like mainstream modern fountain pens that we're thinking of, well, I just said classic and modern, I don't know what I'm talking about. The mainstay fountain pens that we're probably talking about as being the ones having the patents, there's a good chance that they're using patents that lapsed from some previous manufacturer, because fountain pens have been around a long time. So there is like a build of technology that happens. Like that is kind of an important part of the process. But it's like, can companies get their due? Can they get financially compensated for all the risks and designs and the work that they take? As long as that's fair and as long as that's done appropriately, I have less qualms about that, again, as long as it's not creating confusion in the marketplace. And 20 years feels like a pretty good amount of time in the pen world. You've had time to recoup your investment pretty well by that point. That's kind of my take on it. Again, it's a very nuanced, not very clear answer, but I think just, you got to do what's best for you. I think, the thing I would say is like, I do see like on Reddit and some places like that, where it's like, you'll see a price of a really affordable pen that is like, again, kind of like a mockbuster type pen. And that becomes like the baseline of like, this is how much the pen should cost. And everybody else charging it is just trying to get money, and it's a money grab and blah, blah, blah. That I would make a more an argument of against, just because I've seen, at least in the fountain pen world, I've seen more of the behind the scenes of how the industry works. That's really not a lot of what's going on. I think about when I was 16, I worked at Radio Shack. And Radio Shack, you worked at Circuit City back in the day. They don't make any money on TVs, game systems, like the big ticket items. They make all their money on peripherals.
And warranties.
And warranties and extra stuff like that. So when I worked at Radio Shack, we would go into the system and I would see like the cost of like fiber optic cables, for example. A $40 fiber optic cable costs like 59 cents, at Radio Shack's price. This was back in the day. Again, this is, I'm approximating these numbers, let's just say. But I remember just my impression was, being very young, was like, oh my gosh, this is like robbery. How are they charging this much? But I lacked the bigger picture understanding of like, oh, you have like a retail space and employees and all these costs, all this overhead to cover. And when you sell that satellite system or whatever, you're actually like, this was back in the day, it was like DirecTV and all that. The satellite system, I would see the cost of that stuff too. The cost was like $900 and you would pay like $279. So like stores would lose money on big ticket items like that to upsell peripherals and warranties and things like that. So it all kind of balances out over time. So there is, of course, as the end consumer, you pick and choose and buy whatever the heck you want. But, there is a holistic, like a bigger picture thing to look at when you're talking about these like long established companies.
Yeah, when right before I left Circuit City, they had really gone hard on making us upsell extended protection plans on everything, including Blu-rays and DVDs. I'm like, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not. And because guess what? If I had done it, anybody who had a problem with that, they would have nowhere to go because Circuit City went under. Like, come on now.
See, then that's like, okay. So like that was like, they probably knew they were going under at that point.
They were desperate.
And they were like,
they were so desperate.
That feels like more of a money grab.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I was like, that's not fair. I'm not doing that.
Caveat emptor, right? Like you have to buy what you think, but do what you will. But I think like in the short term, in the small scale, like it doesn't hurt anything too much if people are buying like the knockoff stuff. But if that's the only thing that people are buying, then you won't see any innovation coming from the big companies. And, fountain pens will eventually not be relevant anymore and die off. So,
and I do think it's a shame because a lot of these companies that are creating heavily inspired by fountain pens do create incredibly well-made products. And I would
an interesting
if I could
point.
just snap my fingers and have them make, similarly quality products, but not as heavily inspired by, man, I would snap that in a second because, I think of a company like Twisby who came onto the scene, made a great piston filler, something that was a piston, patent once held by Pelikan back in the day, but created something different enough.
Yeah.
And at a great price point, made in Asia, but still with enough originality to introduce something fun, creative, and original with an existing piston design into the market. And now they're one of the most popular, brands in the industry. Like, I would love to see more of that. And I think that it can be done. I just, I want to get over this hump, where, they graduate from the heavily inspired by pens into some original stuff so they can become actual major players in the industry, because I think that competition is helpful. I think, having major brands pushed and shaken up a little bit is healthy for the industry. I think we'll get there one day.
Yeah.
But
how big? See, we have no perspective on like how popular these like, kind of off-brand pens are.
No.
I mean, I see people talk about them online. We've bought some ourselves out of curiosity and seen them. And so we've written with the Knockoff 2000 and the Knockoff Vanishing Point and a bunch of these other ones. And some of them I'm like, for what it is, especially knowing the price, I'm like, this ain't bad.
No, it ain't bad.
But then it's like, if you buy 10 of them, are all 10 of them going to work great? Maybe not. Who knows? So I don't know, like, to what scale those are selling as opposed to, the ones, the authorized selling, ones like we sell through our store, but I don't know. It's interesting. So I'd love to hear what you all think about it. This is a very complex topic. But yeah, it's been an engaging discussion. I appreciate the question.
That's fun.
Thank you. All right, Drew.
Yes.
Are you ready for a much easier question?
Absolutely.
All right. This is from Ashley and Larimore. What are some good next level pens? I'm not a beginner and have done the Art of Cursive Handwriting book. Well, that is definitely not beginner then, because that's a big book. And love doing calligraphy and journaling with bigger nibs so I can see the prettiness of the inks. That's what I'm talking about. I want some pens out of my comfort zone, Pilot, Twisby, Lamy. By the way, I love earthy tones like Drew, brown, dark greens, gold, yellow, etc. So it sounds like you're a great person to answer this question.
I am ready. Thank you, Ashlyn. So I'm not going to talk about Twisby. I'm not going to talk about Lamy. I'm not going to talk about Pilot. So get those out of here. We are going outside of your comfort zone. Things are going to get uncomfortable. Here we go. The Magna Carta Mag 600. Let's talk a little bit about that. We have no earthy tones there, but I will say that the new Obsidian stacked resin is nice and subdued, gives me some retro vibes. You might like that as well. I'm going to recommend that because if you have done the art of cursive penmanship, the Mag 600 comes with the Magnaflex nib, as I like to call it, and we'll continue to call it.
Just trying to make fetch happen.
Oh, it's happening. Fetch has happened. It is Magnaflex. So with the Magnaflex nib, it's probably the bounciest, most operationally flexible nib out of the factory that you can get in the industry right now. So I think you'll have fun with that one, and it will allow you to practice some stuff. And since you're an experienced user, I don't think you run the risk as many might if they're a little bit more entry level having to adjust to this thing. So I think you can handle this just fine, Ashley.
If you're doing calligraphy and the art of cursive penmanship, you probably know what you're doing with the flex nib.
Enjoy your Magnaflex. Also, let's talk about the Kakimori nib. Not a fountain pen, not available in any other real tones, but super fun for somebody to play with who enjoys calligraphy. The Kakimori nib is essentially just a brass or steel, piece of metal that you fit into a dip pen holder and can change the width of your line depending on the angle that you write with. So you can do something really, really thin. If you write almost at 90 degrees, you can drop it down incrementally and get a really, really thick, beefy line, which you will enjoy, A, for calligraphy, and B, for showing off your ink, because you said you like to have a really broad line. The Kakimori nib is great for showing off some fun and crazy ink. And if you have some ink that might be a little bit more high maintenance in your pen, such as something with a ton of shimmer, something like the Kakimori nib cleans off exceptionally well with a little feed brush that you can also pick up, and some water or pen flush. So that's a great bit of fun.
I'll pipe in here real quick.
Pipe away.
To get pretentious and technical on you here. Technically speaking, the Kakimori is not a nib. The Kakimori is a pen, and it fits into a pen holder. If we want to go like calligraphy terms here.
Oh, the nib is a pen.
The nib is called the pen, and the pen holder is the handle doodad that you hold.
Interesting. So what if
in
it's
the calligraphy world, yeah.
So if it looks like an actual like a zebra G nib, that's not a nib? That's a pen?
I believe in and I'm not a trained calligrapher, but I believe that terminology is the pen.
So they're not supposed to be called nib holders?
I don't believe so. But
oh my gosh.
It makes sense for us because that's all we sell as nibs and pens. So that is our terminology. But I think if you're coming from the calligraphy, well, the Kakimori, that like falls into a gray area.
That thing
it's
looks
kind
like
of its own.
Drill bit.
It's kind of its own thing. But I imagine, and maybe Ashlyn can pipe in here because Ashlyn's got some calligraphy experience. But calligraphy is kind of a different world.
We haven't even read that whole book, so
it's kind of a. I've heavily flipped through it. I've read intensely various sections of it, but I have not like gone through all the training exercises.
Kind of like Dr. Zhivago.
That's a whole story. Yes. I'll get into that. If we can remember later in this Pencast, I'll tell you about my
seen it,
Dr. Zhivago story.
Kind of.
Yeah, no. I've read the parts that have like the history and like all that kind of stuff, but I have not gone through the training of the whole book, which is like 80% of it. Yeah. So anyway.
Also, I'm going to talk to you about the Sailor 1911 L or S, large or standard, the pen of the year 2023 in golden olive. So that does get you, Ashlyn, your earth tone. So this is a beautiful olive with a little bit of sparkly resin, gold hardware, absolutely checks all the earth tone boxes. I think it is stunningly lovely. Yes, it's from 2023, but we still have some available in both large and regular. It's definitely something you should check out. And as far as being outside of your comfort zone, if you are familiar with Lamy, Twisby, and Pilot, the Sailor nibs do offer a different experience. They are as predictable and consistent as Pilot, but with a bit of a different feel. So if you are interested in a little bit more of a tactile writing experience, I think the Sailor could offer you something different and new. So I definitely recommend that. I think it's a great pen. And this is going to be one of those things that I'm going to say I might get it, but then once it's gone, I'm going to be like, I should have gotten it. So don't be like me. Go ahead and get one. And then I'm going to mention the one that I feel the strongest about. So as far as a next level pen goes, the one that I think hits your bullseye the most is one I'm extremely biased about. So get ready for this. The Visconti Mirage Mythos in Apollo. So not only is this a great next level pen, it's less than $200 at $159 with a lovely steel nib. And it is a Visconti, but this nib is made in Germany. It is a Schmidt steel nib. It works phenomenally well. The medium specifically puts down a very broad line. I have one inked up right now, actually, with Robert Oster Honeybee. And the shading on that is just delightful. I love having a good shader in a broad nib like this. It's medium technically, but it is a broader, very wet nib. And the gold and brown works so well together because it is not a super glossy, high shine gold. It is a satin gold, and that just kind of tones it down a little bit, makes it feel a little bit more natural, a little bit more organic, and together with that brown, beautiful, beautiful resin, this pen slaps, as the kids say. Or the kids used to say. I don't know what the kids say.
I don't know if that's a current term.
Probably not. Whatever. It's awesome. Visconti Mirage Mythos, it writes phenomenally well. It's gorgeous. Everybody should get one in Apollo because brown's best. And then I'm going to also say Opus 88. No particular pen. None of them are earth-toned. But here's the thing. They are outside your comfort zone. They do offer broads and stubs, so you can get that big wet stroke, and it has a high ink capacity, so you can write to your heart's content with your big obnoxious wet stroke and not worry about having your ink exhausted prematurely. So, and also we don't really get returns on them. They have such a great reputation for quality. Our customer care team loves them, and they have Yovo No. 6 steel nibs on them, so very easily swappable. If you wanted to get a custom grind on them, you could. If you wanted to get it, the flow increased, you could probably get that done, but they're great pens. And then finally, I'm going to say
they also have flex nibs on a couple of their pens too,
that's right.
Don't they? So
they do.
That's something I can say.
Thank
that's
you, Brian.
That's a relatively newer thing. Yeah.
Absolutely, it is. Another great reason that I totally meant to say, but forgot, definitely.
That's why we're here. That's why we're both here.
And then any Schoen design pen. So we talked about Ian Schoen a little bit earlier. This is a great next level pen just because you're getting something that is, I think the further you get along into the hobby, the more you tend to care about where your pens come from and who your pens are made by. And there's potentially not a better story of a maker than Ian Schoen, who makes his pens out of his Philadelphia workshop. Sometimes the pen, the nib, and the feed, which is extraordinarily rare, as we've discussed on this show. But if you happen to be one of those people who has gone deeper and deeper into the hobby and you're looking for a next level experience that has a story behind it or something that you can connect with a little bit easier, a U.S.-made small batch manufacturer that not only creates a great pen, but has a great, very transparent story behind how he makes them. This is a great choice. Mm-hmm. And one thing that's interesting is that not only does he make the pen, sometimes soup to nuts, nib and feed included, but you get a kind of an intimacy of a small batch local manufacturer, but due to his experience in other industries, you get the precision and the quality of like a watch manufacturer. So that is something that it's really, really weird where you don't have to, you can buy local, you can buy kind of small batch without having to sacrifice any level of quality, consistency, or control, which just doesn't happen all the time. So that's something our industry does have in Ian Schoen. So those are my recommendations. And again, also Yovo No. 6 nibs on those a lot of the times, so you can get your big nibs. That's it for me.
Well covered.
Hopefully that works.
I misread the question originally, and all the suggestions I was going to add all fall into the brands you specifically wanted to exclude. So I deleted my notes out of there, and I was like, crap, I have nothing to add.
All right.
But you pretty well covered it. Yeah, I think that's
All right.
You get a lot of different options there, what Drew mentioned.
Yeah, I tried to do a lot of different price points too. So I'll link all of those at the bottom in the video description, so you can check those out if you're still curious, Ashlyn. So thank you for that.
There you go.
Ready for question number 5?
Am I ready for question number 5? I don't know, Drew.
Oh, it's this one. Oh,
Yes.
good. Ah, nice. So we've got MJ Walicki says, I would love to see another mystery pen guessing game where Drew takes random, lesser-known pens from Brian's personal collection and has Brian identify and tell the story behind the pen. Brian's sole comment here just says,
let's do it.
There we go.
Or let's try it.
No. You said let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay.
There we go.
You think the writing pad will help there? I'm trying to cut the glare down, maybe?
I think so.
Okay. So.
All right, so we're going to do that.
We'll see how this works out filming-wise.
I'm going to record this video here. All
right. How many pens do you have there,
I have
Drew?
5 pens for you, Brian.
5 pens.
5 pens.
Now, this is not the thing where I'm closing my eyes and trying to guess it by feel.
No.
This is just, you're going to pull out a pen, and I'm going to talk about what it
lesser,
is, how I got it,
yeah.
just kind of the backstory.
If you happen to know. So here, you can pull those out.
Both of them?
No,
or should I go
we'll
one,
do
at a time? All right, first one we have here. Boop, 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 boop.
What you got there?
Oh, hey. Okay, so this is a Pilot pen. Oh my gosh, what is the name of this pen? It's the...
is it a Cocoon?
Cocoon, I believe, yeah. It's
okay.
Whatever they call it in Japan. So this is a Metropolitan, basically. Or the MR.
But they're the same thing?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So it's the same pen, identical.
Okay.
Except they do not have this color in the U.S., nor have they ever. It's like a marbled green and black. Or it's like a black with, it's not really marbling. It's more like, I don't know, what would you call that? Webbing or something? Some kind of like thing. Now I believe, so this comes out of Japan. So it has I have to check, like, is it Standard International? Because the MRs in Europe, they do them with Standard International, cartridges, adaptability on them. But this one comes from Japan. So this is the Pilot Namiki. So it's basically identical to a Metropolitan. It's just a
slightly different
feel.
Nib there with the little dots.
Oh, it's got the little dots on it. Yeah, I guess so. And again, I don't know if this is because it's a little older or maybe they, I don't know if they've had the little dots on any of the pens that we've had in the U.S. So, I mean, it's literally just a different color, a different option.
Okay, so I always thought, like, I knew the MR and the Metropolitan were identical, other than the converter fit usually.
So, funny little story here. The pen technically is not called the Metropolitan. It's called the MR. Mm-hmm. The Metropolitan was the name of the first series of colors that they released in the U.S. of the MR.
But now they all say Metropolitan.
But it was not hyper clear about that when they first released them. And us and all the other retailers just started calling them the Metropolitan, and that's what the model became known as in the US. So technically, it is the MR.
Nice.
And the Metropolitan was the first series, but now everybody just calls it the Metropolitan.
Yeah, I mean, even Pilot calls it the Metropolitan now. It's like the Metropolitan Retro Pop and the Metropolitan, animal.
It's just, it's just like, how much do you fight it? And what does MR even mean? Like, No, I don't think so. I think it stands for something, but I can't remember what it is necessarily. It does stand for something. My memory's failing me. Rachel would be yelling at me.
So yeah, I mean,
it's not a huge story here.
Okay.
How did I acquire this? I believe it was sent to me by a fan or a customer or something. I don't think this is one that I acquired, though. Honestly, I cannot remember.
Okay.
Exactly how I acquired this one.
So that's a Cocoon.
Yep.
So the Cocoon, the MR, and the Metropolitan.
All
depending
the same.
on where you at.
Yes.
All
but
right.
The European versions, which they call the MR, has the standard international cartridge compatibility. Mm-hmm. So that's the one difference between all of them. And they have different color options. Yeah. And I have a bunch of other Cocoons, too, that are different colors.
I did see one Cocoon in there that had the little tag that said Cocoon.
Yes.
But this one didn't. I'm like,
so that's why I can't quite remember, because I know I definitely bought some of those in Japan when I went to Japan. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if this one specifically I bought in Japan or not. So I either bought it in Japan or it was a gift from somebody.
Interesting.
All right. Anyway, so I've had that one for a while, probably 8 years maybe, if I had to guess. Okay. Unless I bought it in Japan, then that was not 8 years ago.
All right, what's next?
What's next? What do you got out of here? Let's see. Boop, 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 boop. Oh, hey. What do we got here? Conklin.
See, I knew this one, but I knew this has a story.
It does have a story, doesn't it? Okay, so this, what is the story behind this one?
It's the Nighthawk.
This is the Conklin Nighthawk. Yes. So the original Nighthawk we did was the Monteverde Nighthawk, which was on the Invincia Deluxe platform. But we basically adapted the same design. It was a totally blacked out pen. This one, so the whole idea behind the Nighthawk, it was kind of inspired by the stealth bomber, also called the Nighthawk, because it's all like stealth. It was the carbon fiber with a matte finish. That was the big thing, and then black trim with black nib and everything. So we came out that was like a decade ago that we did the original Nighthawk. So we had the opportunity to do it on a Conklin, on the Durograph style, and we went for it. I don't know how many of these we sold. I know it was limited edition because this one right here is, if you can see all the way down there, this one is number 1. So this is the first of the set. I don't remember how many we did total.
I don't know.
I'm assuming less than 1,000.
Was this the first exclusive we ever put our own nib on?
Oh my gosh, that is a good question. I am trying to remember if we put our own nibs on any Edison pens before this one. It's possible.
Maybe.
It's possible, but this would have been pretty early on. We didn't do a whole lot like that, but we definitely did some with Edison. I'm trying to remember. And then it might just be some Conklin and Monteverde. I don't know that we've done our own nibs on many other pens.
This was definitely one of the earliest ones that we had a real hand in developing. And I remember seeing samples, and this took a lot of time to get the ball rolling on.
Oh, it did, yeah.
And we were really proud of it when it came in.
Yeah, and this, like, the carbon fiber looks a little different. We've had many versions of the Nighthawk, and the carbon fiber looks a little different on most of them. All the Invincia ones was more of like a cross weave, but this one, I don't even know what you call this, but it's almost like a little rounded.
It's very tight.
The pattern is very tight. You don't feel it, it's definitely coated and all that, but it's held up well over time. It looks really classy. It's a very light pen, because the Invincia one had like metal components. It was much heavier, but this one, it's all resin components. So it's a very, very streamlined, very aerodynamic pen. So yeah, it's a fun one. I have not pulled this pen out of there in quite some time.
Yeah.
So that's a good one to look at there.
Memory lane.
All right, what do we got next here? Do you care which one I
go
with?
I don't know what's in there.
Here on the end. Oh, yeah, look at this thing.
What the heck is that?
Okay, what is this thing? Olika? What is Monami? Monami, I believe, is the brand.
I saw that in your collection. I was like,
Olika?
What the heck?
This, I think, was sent to me by someone. I definitely have like a group of pens in my collection that I have like question marks by in my spreadsheet because I don't really know what the brand name is or like
Monami.
What its cost would be or anything. I mean, it's definitely more of like an entry level grade thing. It's like, I don't think it's a standard international cartridge because it's like a little bigger.
Weird.
It's a weird looking cartridge, so I think might be kind of its own thing.
What the heck?
I want to say it comes out of Japan. If any of you have any familiarity with
What's
this pen
Monami
or this brand,
Olika?
I haven't inked it and used it because I think this is the only cartridge I have, and I don't know anything else that would fit on here.
How about seeing the nib size on the clip? That's weird. I've never seen that before.
I mean, it's sort of like where you have the Preppy. It has like the 05 or the 03 or whatever on top, sort of like that, which is why it makes me think that's like probably more of a Preppy range of, pricing and whatever. But yeah, there you go. I don't know what Monami is. I don't know if they
idea.
This could very well be like a white labeled kind of OEM pen made by somebody else and they put their name on. I don't really know. So
yeah,
if any of you all have any idea what's going on with this pen,
anybody out there work for
let
Monami?
Me know. But it's got a grip that feels very similar to a lot of like gel pens and stuff like that. So it makes me think that this is more kind of in that category. Oh, and you know what? I'm just realizing.
What?
I'll have to save this for another Pencast. I'll save it for the what's happening portion.
Don't forget.
But I got some pens that I need to try, but I didn't bring them with me. So anyway. Okay. Next one we got. Oh, this one's hard to get out.
Oh, it's probably that little one, yeah. So I quickly asked you, I was like, have we talked about this one? Because it looked kind of familiar, but I also know nothing about it.
You're right. You don't know anything about it because it's actually pretty new.
Oh, okay.
So this is made by Modern Fuel.
Modern Fuel.
So they have been making rollerball pens. So they're like, if you know Tactile Turn and what is their name? Shoot, we used to carry them. Karas Customs, pens like that.
Mm-hmm.
Think of like Kickstarter, machine shop type pens.
I can see that.
So they mostly make rollerballs and stuff like that are like very everyday carry sort of stuff. So this is their first foray into fountain pens. So I actually have this pen because the owner reached out to me.
Whoa, does that have no feed?
It has a feed, but it's a very like tucked in there kind of a feed. Yeah. It's a Bach nib, and it writes pretty well, stainless steel. So it's not like a fountain pen aficionado fountain pen. Mm-hmm. It's an everyday carry like company making a fountain pen. But it's kind of interesting. They do some like modular parts and stuff. So they have this kind of like textured grip, but you can actually unscrew this portion of it and you can replace it with a smooth grip. It's got a little tool that comes in the box, which wasn't in the pen case when you pulled it out of there, but it's like a little tool here. I think it's like a 5mm Allen wrench that you can unscrew, and then you can take the clip off, and stuff like that. It's got this little blind cap on the back here. I mean, it's a cartridge converter pen, but if you want to post the pen, you can, but if the threads are too sharp and you want to cover them up, it's got the little cap that you can put on there. Oh. So it's kind of a modular little, kind of tinkerer's sort of pen.
Yeah.
So he sent this to me. The owner's name is Matt. I didn't know him personally, but he reached out to me. Turns out he's got a really cool story. Family guy. He didn't start Modern Fuel, but he bought it like a year or two ago. He's actually still active duty military. He's like a Black Hawk helicopter pilot.
What?
The guy's got a pretty crazy story. He's got like 5 kids or something too. But this is his side hustle. So he is active duty military and doing this on the side.
Jeez.
So I was like, well, thank you for your service, but super nice guy. Very thorough. He seems like he's really trying to do it right. But he's new to fountain pens and was trying to learn. And so I was going back and forth with him, giving him some feedback on this pen, and he let me keep it as a thank you for giving him some advice on it.
Cool. Wow. That had way more story than I expected.
Yeah. So they've got other versions of it too. This is like the brass one. They've got a titanium. They've got, some other ones. So yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see like what they do. They're not like super high volume or anything, very much like a craft grade kind of a thing, but seem to be pretty well machined. And we don't, it's like we could potentially talk about selling them long term, but it's like he's not at that stage yet. So check out Modern Fuel if you want to see his site. All right, last one of the bunch here, huh? What do we got here? Ooh, look at this.
I forgot already.
Oh. I know what this is.
I know.
Yeah.
How'd that get in there?
Look at that. This is a Pelikan.
Nope.
No, not Pelikan. Platinum. Sorry, I saw it's the 10th anniversary of the 3776 century. It's the decade of the century.
Yes. Oh
that nib
God.
Is super cool.
Look at the nib.
Not only does it look cool, but this nib is like very, very soft.
I love it.
So it's very kind of flexy and responsive. This is my favorite platinum nib.
Oh yeah,
I've ever written with.
Oh, I put it in here just because I want to see it some more.
Oh yeah. Now the bumps. I don't know if I'm like.
I don't even care.
It's not my personal.
I'm all about this nib is all that matters.
It's not my personal style. The nib is pretty fantastic. So this was their 10th anniversary. When did this come out? 2 years ago?
Something like that, yeah.
It was during COVID, so everything blurs together. But this pen I think was like $500 or something.
Yeah.
It was up there. It was not the most attainable for everybody, but the nib is pretty fantastic. It's
very limited
historically relevant. So I kind of had to pick one up.
Absolutely.
And I will ink it out from time to time and just enjoy writing with it. But there you go. I get one
this nib should be on all platinums.
It's pretty great. It's
nice and bouncy. It feels like, because platinum gold nibs are generally pretty stiff. This feels like feels like a platinum a pilot gold nib.
Yeah, I don't know if you can how easy you can see it, but it's
oh yeah.
And it's inked too. Look at that.
Nice.
There you go. So it's very, very flexy and responsive. But yeah, let me see if I can steal the back of your notes. I don't remember the last time I inked this. Oh boy, I think
might just be dirty.
This falls into the category of it was inked at some point.
Oh no, it's clean. It just had some leftovers.
It definitely had some. Well, I don't know. Anyway, so there's that pen. That's fun.
There we go. I hope one day they bring this nib to some other pens.
That would be cool, right?
That would make me happy.
I don't know. I don't know what's involved in making that particular nib.
Love and care and happiness.
I did when I went there for
service to the community.
When I went there for their 100th anniversary, they were adamant about not having any pictures taken, but I did get to see some of how they make their nibs. And it was pretty wild because all of their machinery was like World War II era. Like it looked like you went back in time. Very laborious. There was not a single automated anything in their knit making process.
Oh, yeah.
It was all giant machines that people were operating kind of by hand, very manual process. It just really made me appreciate the craftsmanship. And also, like, you can't just increase the output of stuff like that. It's like you're limited by these highly trained people who are, I'm sure, having to very intricately operate these highly specialized, irreplaceable machines. It just, that's a lot of how the fountain pen industry works, actually, is that kind of,
people,
specialized
in Japan,
stuff.
Anyway, Platinum, Pilot, and Sailor are kind of recognized as the big three. But
Sure.
I'd wager that
There's
Platinum
a bunch
is
of others, yeah.
probably noticeably smaller in operation than
yeah.
Sailor or Pilot.
I would say so. Especially now that like Sailor is bought by Plus. So it depends how much you factor. Like, okay,
I'm
now
just
they're
mainly
part
talking
of
about
Plus,
like their manufacturing floor.
I don't know. Pilot is by far bigger than the other two, like probably combined by magnitudes over. I don't know about Platinum compared to Sailor, to be quite honest with you. I believe that Platinum is the smallest of the three, but I'm not 100% sure because Pilot is publicly traded, but they have a lot of other things besides just fountain pens.
Wonder,
They're like $1 billion company.
I don't know if like their actual manufacturing has fine writing isolated from like normal production.
It's hard to say.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to like, well, if you can't actually take fine writing out and say, well, how big is that? In comparison to,
I'm sure
like Sailor.
I'm sure they can, but I don't know. So like Pilot, again, they're a publicly traded company, but I don't know that they break it down like that.
Yeah,
it's probably more in like general categories, like art supplies versus ink versus whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Platinum is private, so there's no public data about anything that they do. So it's hard to say. You can't really compare them because how do you know? But yeah, and then Sailor is hard to say too because I don't know if Plus is publicly traded or not.
Yeah, it just fascinates me because we hear about all these big brands, whether it's Lamy, Pelikan, Pilot, Platinum, Visconti, and they all get kind of lumped in the same. They make fountain pens, but in terms of size and scale, some of them are on complete different poles.
Absolutely.
And a company like Visconti, like, what did you say? There's like Italian laws that cap, the amount of employees somebody can have at like 15.
Well, it's not a cap of how many you can have, but the regulations and stuff get much more stringent above 15.
Okay.
So a lot of Italian companies will cap their full-time employees at 15, and then they'll have like part-time people or contractors or other things,
But
more
Visconti,
Visconti's small.
Yeah,
they're small.
But yet the name and the brand recognition is just thrown up with all the other big guys, and it's just they're so you just don't know.
Well, Lamy I think is like 400 people, 350, 400 employees, which really in the grand scheme of things is a small company. Like by most accounts, we've
under 1,000, right?
Well, it depends. Like we've applied for different like best in workplace type awards, and generally speaking, like anywhere between 500 and 1,000 is the cap of small companies. So it kind of depends on which you're applying for, but yeah, it's not uncommon to have think of less than 1,000 employees as being a small company. And it's like, what are we at like sub 30?
Yeah.
It's like, it seems like nothing, compared to, companies that have tens or hundreds of thousands of employees, so it does get kind of crazy. But yeah, most of the fountain pen industry is definitely in that small. In fact, I think every fountain pen company would be considered a small company by those like employee numbers. Lamy might be one of the biggest, but Pilot is big. But again, I don't know how much automation they have. I don't know that much about like how many, because they manufacture a lot of different things. Like there's Namiki and there's all different areas of focus. And so I don't know how big the whole thing is for them. It's not like they just one building where all the Pilot pens are being made. They're kind of made, I believe, in like even different parts of Japan, like completely different cities, different regions, stuff like that. Anyway. So yeah, cool. Well, thanks for the trip down memory lane here.
Those are always fun. I found
some of them I remembered a lot, and some of them I didn't remember very much at all, which is how it goes, I guess.
How it goes. Yeah, I found some more in there. So if we want to do this again, y'all let us know if that's something interesting to you because
there's plenty in there.
He's got plenty.
I bought a couple new cabinets because mine were they were already maxed out, and I was starting to stack pen trays on top of each other, and it was getting to the point where like some of them were stacked like too deep, and I was like, okay, this is getting to be cumbersome to sift through some of these, and I guess I need to devote more space to it or get rid of pens, but that's not happening. So here we go. I'll just keep. What is my space going to look like 20 years from now when I'm who
mezzanine?
Knows? We'll keep. Yeah.
Mezzanine system.
I'll just have it, just stacked up
There
to
we
the
go.
ceiling.
A nice, one of those old school library ladders.
Yeah, that would be cool, wouldn't it?
Heck yeah.
Oh, that'd be fun, but also kind of annoying. Anyway, so there you go. Hope you all enjoyed that. If you have any questions for us, future questions, you can ask in the comments. Look at our YouTube community page, or you can email us at pencast@gouletpens.com. Okay, next, we're not doing a pen spotlight this week, but we are doing a Meet the Team with Adam.
We're doing Adam Spotlight.
We will spotlight Adam. Adam's going to talk a little bit about what we do in our warehouse, and he's going to talk a little bit about environmental things, because that is something we think about a lot. And we got Earth Day coming up, so the timing is not coincidental to bring Adam in. He's passionate about that, and we support him in that. So without further ado, here's Adam.
Hey! It is Drew and Adam. Good job, Brian and Drew, for so successfully introducing us.
Good job.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
I don't know if it was me. It might have been Brian. Either
You
way,
both did a great job.
Either way, good job, Drew.
Good job, Drew.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Today is Flannel Fridays for me and Adam. So
Yeah, bringing it back.
yeah, Adam was just reminding me we used to do. God, see now I'm saying it.
I used to enforce, as you said.
Adam used to had a great idea to do Tank Top Thursdays.
Tank Top Thursday.
At the Goulet Pen Company. I, needless to say, did not participate in that, but Adam had. I think you just did it so you could show off your kittens flying pizzas tank top.
That was part of the motivation.
Yeah.
It was also like we didn't have air conditioning.
That's true. This is in the old space.
Yeah.
So now we've got a very nice air-conditioned warehouse, which we will talk about because you are the warehouse manager.
Newly minted warehouse manager.
Yes, but you have always found your home in the shipping sphere here at the Goulet Pen Company.
Yeah, thanks to you.
Since day one. Well, you weren't a terrible choice to hire, and that holds true today.
Yeah, you found me
Hurrah.
at the GameStop.
Yeah, I remember we were both at our old job. I was working at a law firm, and I would come and visit you on my lunch break, and we would just kind of chat, and now we're here.
Now we are here.
So let's see, how long ago was that you joined the Goulet Pen Company?
11 years.
11. Fantastic. So in that time, the warehouse and the shipping situation here it's basically unrecognizable.
Absolutely.
From what it once was.
Yeah.
And you're one of these guys that just continues to seek out change and innovation and improvement. Like you can't stop. Like you are always looking for how can we do this better, even when it looks great.
I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, that's part of my function here at the Goulet Pen Company is to help make the team more efficient, make sure that we're serving customers with a level of excellence, slightly ridiculous amount of care that we go for. And just keep pushing the envelope and bring new materials to the table, new ideas.
Literally new materials.
Materials.
Tell me something, because we are fast approaching Earth Day here in the month of April. Yeah. What are some of the either most recent or developments you're most proud of during the fulfillment and shipping and packing process?
Okay. I'd say most recent, within the last year or so, we've completely gotten rid of plastic, like packing bubbles.
Yeah, so no more bubbles.
No more bubbles. That was a thing that we did a lot of. When I first started, that was like something that we were like really like, hey, like this is full tilt. Like you should like be able to throw this into oncoming traffic, and it's absolutely fine. Now you can still do that if you chose to, but we're using exclusively paper, which we're really proud of. We get a lot of really great feedback about that, and I'm very passionate about that, and the team is very passionate about finding ways to deliver the quality of excellence that we want to give our customers in ways that also serve the environment.
Do you do any stress testing?
That's a great question. No. I know back in the day we used to...
Because I want to say that I've seen like customer care kicking around some boxes kind of recently. Yeah, testing. But so, do you just mainly rely on customer feedback as far as what's working?
Yes, we do rely on customer feedback,
and you get a lot of it too, don't you?
We do get a lot of it. There on the on the pamphlet. I think we refer to it as the first timer pamphlet. There's a little QR code where you can go and provide feedback. We look through that every week to see if if what we're doing is working, if there's any trends that we have to pay attention to. Is there anything that we need to communicate to customer care as far as something that we'd be doing differently or just get some clarity on? So we value that feedback. Our packers get that on a pretty consistent basis. So they're hearing directly from customers like what the experience is.
Customers don't really fill that out very often, though, do they really?
All the time.
I know, it's so wild.
It's great.
It's surprising. Like they have to scan the QR code, go type out some stuff, and it's not always just like it was good. Like there's robust comments in there.
Yeah, essays.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's
and y'all read all that.
We do read all of it. And it's an affirming way to remember that the things that we do is like, yes, we sell pens, but it's also the experience. And you never know, no matter what job you're in, you might be making someone's day that day. So that's especially when we get like really great nuggets of feedback. We'll read them in team stand-ups. We do send them in like Slacks or things that we send to our team members. So we do read it, and we try to focus on, hey, what you're doing could be making all the difference for somebody today. You just never know.
Yeah, and it doesn't just end with, getting online, buying the thing, and checking out. Like, that whole process can be great, but when they actually receive the pen, if that's not also great, then everything that came before it is kind of meaningless.
Absolutely. One thing that we say in the back is that the package that our customers receive is the only physical experience they have of our business. So it should wow and excite.
You know what I think it is? I think it's the punctuation at the end of a sentence. Now, but it's all about inflection. Like, you're opening up the box is the punctuation. It's like whether or not it's like a period or a, ellipses,
Ellipses.
or if it's a exclamation point. Like,
we'd like it to be that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
what we want.
Boom. Love it. Anything else you want to mention about the packing situation?
So yeah, the switch to all paper packaging has been a recent thing that we've done. Over the course of the last few years, we've also switched some of our more common boxes that we use to 100% post-consumer recycled cardboard. We send out probably about 80% of our outbound packages are in 100% recycled boxes. Of course, you can recycle any of the boxes that you receive, and over the course of the last few years, we've just made that easier with the removal of the plastics and just going to the 100% recycled cardboard. Like, we want that to be a good experience for customers. I mean, gosh, when I get a package that has those like crinkled up little papers in there that go all over my living room, I can tell you, I'm like, never again.
Yeah, my house is messy enough without adding extra variables of messiness to it.
Yeah,
like, I don't need that. I've got 3 dogs. They have.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, they add their own glitter amongst the house. I don't need paper glitter.
That's a colorful way of saying it.
A lot of people call it that corgi glitter. It's a thing.
Corgi glitter.
Yeah.
All right.
If Archer wears anything black in the morning, I just know that, like, I'm getting that lint roller as soon as he walks up the door. It's like, yep, he's been on the couch. All right, come here, buddy. Time to roll you.
So yeah, I guess if any dog breed has glitter, it's the corgi.
They do, because they have the undercoat too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Chihuahuas because that's what I used to have.
Yeah, Adam's a Chihuahua man.
I am a Chihuahua. I'm converted, but if Chihuahuas leave anything, it's like caltrops or.
That's right. Just total. Just they're trying to trap you or lock you in.
Chaos.
Devious. Yeah.
I think that they're the only dog that still occurs naturally in the wild.
Really?
Yes.
I did not know that.
They're also extremely hardy because they're so tiny.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
I would have never thought that Chihuahuas could survive in the wild.
Well, they run in packs.
That's horrifying.
Or adorable.
What? I did not know any of this. Where? Where in the world?
Oh, I wish I can't speak with any level of authority.
That's okay. Someone out here will know. That's one thing that Brian and I have confirmed.
Okay.
Is we can approach an infinite, like a tiny little bit of knowledge, and then give up, and someone else will fill in the blank. It's great.
I do believe that, as far as Guinness Records is concerned, that a Chihuahua is the oldest like dog. Like, I want to say it's some like 20-some years that a Chihuahua has lived. Yeah, the one that we had lived to 16 or 17.
Wow, that's nuts. That is crazy.
Yeah,
that's wild.
That's nice.
I want to ask you something.
Okay, please do.
You love music.
I do.
You're a very musically gifted person. It is just a massive passion of yours, and you hum, sing, and whistle
Constantly.
Like, he can't sneak up on people.
I'm sorry.
He can't sneak up on people in the office. Everybody hears Adam coming because he's humming. He's whistling, he's singing.
Yeah.
What is your most common default song that goes on in your brain?
The Sanford and Son theme song is probably the top one because it's just really like, I don't know why.
It's amazing.
It's very catchy.
I love that.
And there's a song, I want to say the band is Scorpions.
Yeah.
The Winds of Change, which has whistling in it. So that I'm constantly
Sanford
whistling.
and Son.
Sanford and Son.
How long has that been like your default song? Because I've gotten, for me, the Aladdin's Prince Ali, for whatever reason, I'm talking decades, Adam, has been like the default song.
That's definitely a good one.
Is that a thing? Do people have default songs? Let us know in the comments. Do you have like, if you have no kind of song in your head, do you have one that kind of, if nothing else kind of is vying for that attention, do you have one that it defaults to? I want to know.
That makes me think of the karaoke song. My go-to karaoke song is Prince's 7, which is not a very well-known one, but it's literally the only one that I could possibly even dare to sing.
Huh. But you are a professional singer.
Well, thank you very much.
That's a fact.
I like to.
It's a fact.
Yeah, I do like to sing.
You get paid to sing.
Well, Prince is just a historically exceptional musician, so that's why it's.
Do you know
some things you just?
Do you know what year Purple Rain came out?
I don't. I have to admit, I've never actually seen Purple Rain. I've seen
1984.
1980. I know. Okay, I should have known for you to ask the question. Yeah, I've seen tons of Elvis movies, but that's it.
No, actually, I haven't seen Purple Rain either. I've gone to it and considered it, and people who like it, they just say, it's not like, it's kind of like just a long music video. So I haven't really taken the plunge because no one's really gotten me excited about it.
Yeah, well,
I'm sure it's fine, but
I'll let you know. It's got to be done.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have a favorite type of music?
Do I have a favorite type of music?
It seems like you're the type of guy that kind of appreciates a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I would say it's evolved over the years. Currently, I'm listening to a lot of jazz standards because I sing in a jazz band. The Leading Tones is the name of the band, if anybody wants to check it out. So I'm listening to a lot of Jamie Cullum, who is a British musician who does standards, but also will take modern hits and turns them into jazz. He's got a great version of Please Don't Stop the Music.
What exactly is a jazz standard? Is that just kind of like a...
It's a jazz standard is like the songs that just are the standard repertoire of jazz. If you're thinking about a standard like "Fly Me to the Moon," "I've Got You Under My Skin," Sinatra, like anything that Sinatra did is
interesting. So
Tony Bennett.
In jazz, it's more common to just like they're covers essentially, right?
I mean, there are songs that were written like for jazz groups, and they've just become a kind of the historical like standard part of the repertoire.
Interesting.
So like you'll hear the same guys like Sinatra, Tony Bennett, Dean Martin. More recently, like Michael Bublé, Boobles as I like to call him, and Jamie Cullum is my favorite.
Huh. So do you think any other genre has standards, or is it just something that's unique to jazz?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't think that I can make a comparison
because I've never heard
like
of that. I'm just learning about this term for the first time.
Yeah, I don't think I can make another musical comparison like that.
So that's kind of unique to jazz.
Yeah. I mean, there's just a standard repertoire of songs that everybody kind of looks at, and these are the ones they do. Of course, there's new jazz being written, but yeah, a standard is like, definitely that song.
Yeah.
Like when you hear it, definitely.
That's kind of cool. It kind of makes me sad that like, other genres don't have it. It'd be like kind of like a Mount Rushmore of rock songs or something like that everybody's encouraged to do.
Well, I know that you have a Mount Rushmore of rock songs.
I could come up with something probably.
I do like to listen to like classic rock. Yes is one of my favorite bands. Not a very well-known one, but the keyboard player in that band is crazy. I have recently enjoyed listening to more like classical guitar, like either ensembles or solo music. And as far as what people call classical. My favorite composer is Claude Debussy. He's pretty much the only like impressionist composer. So this was happening around the time of like impressionism in art. So the whole purpose of being like in art capturing like light.
Right.
So his music is it will depict a scene. His piece La Mer, which is French for the ocean. You'll never hear anything that makes you think of the ocean quite like that piece of music. So I'd highly recommend it.
I will. Yeah. That sounds fascinating. because I can't listen to anything with lyrics while I'm working because it just takes over my brain too much.
Agreed. I think we both listen to some video game,
Yes.
like instrumental stuff.
Yes, we do.
Stardew Valley has a great soundtrack.
Did I tell you that Shannon got me tickets to see Final Fantasy VII in concert in October, I think? I know. I'm so excited.
Good music.
I'm so excited. Yeah, very. So you play a lot of instruments too, like more than your average person.
Some better than others. Yeah.
What if you could just instantly be awesome at any instrument? What would it be?
Cello, without question.
Wow, that was quick. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So have you tried a cello and be like, nope, not for me? Like,
absolutely not. But I had one of my roommates in college who's still one of my best friends. Hello, Jamal. He played cello. And we're great friends to this day.
Cellos are beautiful.
It's got one of the widest ranges of any orchestral instrument.
They're so smooth. It's like if you took a violin and just like rub butter on it. Like it's like it's just buttery violin. You get the same feel, but it's encased in this richness that it's stunning. Like I love cello stuff. I don't listen to enough of it, but when I hear it, I'm like, oh my god, that's a cello. That's a cello. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
That is cool.
I feel like it's hard to miss with the cello. A violin, you mentioned about you have to be like really darn good with a violin.
I'm sure that's the same thing with a cello, but the violin does sound a little bit more sharp, a little bit more accurate, pinpointy. You know. I don't know. I have no idea what I'm talking about.
No, you're hitting the nail on the head.
That's how it makes me feel. You know.
Yeah. And that's an important part of music.
Yeah. Shifting gears.
Okay.
We work at a fountain pen store. I was just curious. Do you in 11 years, have you found a fountain pen that you go to, connect with, have an affinity towards?
Okay. So my first fountain pen that I purchased was the Monteverde Prima Turquoise, which I still have in my office. I enjoy the Retro 51 pens. I love the designs. I have one of the Halloween pens from years ago.
Oh, the Sleepy Hollow?
Yes. Yeah. Oh. So not last year, but the year before, I think was the Sleepy Hollow.
That looks so good.
But if I had to say like this is like my favorite fountain pen, I'm really going to go the Lamy Safari. Of course, the All-Star is a very similar kind of like body, but just the feeling of it. I'm really weird about textures. Like I'm the kind of person who can't like write on a chalkboard because it just makes my skin crawl.
It's tough.
So texture is really important to me. So I just prefer the texture of the Safari, and I just love the utilitarian, sleek look of the Lamy pens.
It works.
Not a lot of bells and whistles. It's just a beautiful, functional fountain pen.
It gets the job done.
It's easy to switch the nibs out
100%. When I was coming up with I obviously didn't design the pirate pen that we have.
But you've inspired a lot of the things that we have.
I came up with the general premise, and I took inspiration from their Sleepy Hollow pen from this, because I saw what Richard did with perspective and having the Headless Horseman right up at the front, or kind of, he was mid-size, but he used a two-dimensional plane and just created layers and layers and distance and distance and distance. I'm like, oh my God, I want to do that, but with pirates. So yeah, and you had the glow-in-the-dark feature there. I wanted this one to glow in the dark too, but yeah, that Sleepy Hollow pen was banging. That was fantastic.
They've got some bangers. As
do.
the kids say.
As the kids say, yes.
They probably don't anymore.
No, they probably don't. If we know of it, they've probably stopped saying it.
Llama face.
Alrighty. Well, that just about covers. Let me ask you real quick. If you wouldn't mind rattling off a few quick ones, if you don't mind.
Lightning round.
All right. What is your favorite movie?
Favorite movie? What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams.
Oh no, that's so sad.
It is so sad, but sometimes you need that.
Do you actually rewatch that movie?
Yes.
Oh my God. It's a great movie.
It is.
But it is. You got to have something fun to do after that movie.
That's true. You need a palate cleanser.
Yes.
A different Robin Williams movie.
Go watch Paddington or something like that.
It's a good one.
Yes. Go watch Flubber. You do What Dreams May Come and then Flubber.
That's an afternoon.
That is amazing. Favorite place to vacation or visit?
Monterey, Virginia.
Monterey. Oh, is that the mountains?
Yes.
Golly. All right.
Yeah.
Fantastic. A conversation or topic that immediately makes you want to just jump in on.
Oh, talking about Skyrim.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Favorite video game.
Yeah, I did know that about you.
Yeah.
So are you currently playing that?
Always.
On what system right now?
Xbox One.
Yep. Very cool.
Yeah.
That's been ported to so many systems. It's probably on your phone now.
Yeah.
It might be.
Or my cello.
What is your oldest hobby?
Drawing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We had the Monday matchups. I used to
do
yeah.
That. You did that glorious Gandhi.
Yeah, I got that. The Walt Whitman.
Yeah.
Painting. Yeah, probably drawing, painting.
Yeah.
I just speaking of Jamal, I spent him like a ceramic Santa Claus that I painted.
That's right.
Yeah, you saw that. I brought it in.
I've seen a couple of those. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, no, it was the same one. You've done multiple Santa Clauses, haven't you? Yeah.
Yeah, 2.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there you go. Thank you for the lightning round, Adam. You were very quick. I'm not used to having somebody sit in this chair and give me quick, immediate answers that don't start with "it depends." But we won't say anybody's name that rhymes with Schmar and Schmroulet. Well, that is our time. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today.
Yeah, my pleasure.
We appreciate your contributions and your personality.
It takes all of us.
Yes. All righty. Back to you, Brian and Drew. Well, thank you, Drew and Adam.
Yes.
Y'all did a great job.
Indeed.
To be young again.
Complimenting yourself.
3 weeks ago.
Were you sub 40 at that point?
I don't think so.
Or you're post 40 already?
Yeah.
I only have a few days left here to make fun of you, Drew. It's coming. It's coming.
Right.
Less than 2 weeks out.
Oh, man.
2 weeks out.
It's horrible.
Is it?
Instantly.
I mean, you look horrible.
Yeah, I know.
So, I mean, I can see it on your face.
Yeah, I'm a cautionary tale. Right here. This is your future.
Everyone older than us is like, you guys shut up. You're still young.
No, you got to shut up with that glorious head of hair you have there. I'm offended just looking at you.
Hair like mink. What can I say?
Oh, you disgust
Though
me.
I will say, I got a haircut this past weekend, and they're like trimming up my neck and all that stuff, and it's like all gray coming down. All of my grays.
Yeah, but your hair
are in
probably
like my eyebrows, sideburns, neck.
That's great.
Armpits,
your hair probably
it.
makes an audible sound when it hits the floor.
It's pretty.
There's
a lot of hair.
Thump, 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 thump. Mine just like goes away in the wind. They clip something. It's just like Pocahontas' little flaky wind that she has going on. That's my hair. It's
like pet dander. It's just
already
like
yeah,
floofy,
exactly. It's like 90% air already.
Yeah, mine's like steel wool hitting the floor. It's like. Yeah, pretty much.
Oh man, get the shot.
You should
back.
see. Okay, so Rachel's got really thick
Both
and long
do,
hair.
Yeah.
My kids both have super thick hair. Do you have any idea how hard it is for me to clean out our vacuums? Because those rollers on the vacuums get clogged with hair, and I have to use like legitimate tools to get the hair out of there. I have to take vacuums apart. I have to use knives and stuff to cut the hair out because it'll jam up all the works inside the vacuum because the hair is so thick and meaty in my family.
I don't have tangle problems, but we have so much dog hair in the house. Like I have to empty the vacuum like 3 times just for the downstairs.
Oh yeah,
like,
okay.
It's just,
so I don't have that going on.
It's just so much dog hair.
Yeah, you got.
And then I vacuum, and then I'm like, what? There's more. Like,
oh yeah,
it's never ending.
It's like washing the car right now with the pollen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Ellie washed the cars this weekend, and I went to inspect it, and I'm like, there's already pollen on these cars again. She just washed them. Anyway, I guess we're doing what's happening. We're sort of easing into it, so...
What's happening? We had a mental health half day last week. We talked about it last week, talked about what I was going to do, and I did just that. So I did go to Waffle House for lunch. That was amazing and wonderful. And... my wife knows this about me, but sometimes I will be eating, and if the meal is delicious, I kind of just close my eyes and absorb it into my soul. And when I was checking out, I brought the hostess or server my little receipt, and she's like, "Did you enjoy it?" I'm like, "Oh my God, I so did." She's like, "Yeah, I saw you over there. You were really kind of zoning out." I was like, "Oh, yeah."
State of flow while you're eating your
I do that from time to time. I did not know that anyone saw that, but
it's your nirvana state there.
So
achieve the higher level of consciousness eating his Waffle House.
Just so y'all know, I'm like, I'm not exaggerating when I talk about how much I love Waffle House. I really do. And the server actually picked up on that. She probably thought that was super weird. And again, it's Waffle House, probably not the weirdest thing she's seen that day.
For sure not. For sure not.
So I did that. That was delightful, amazing, wonderful, and magical. And then I went home. It was a quiet house for the most part. The dogs barked intermittently, but I was able to sit down, cozied up in the love sack, turned off the lights, turned on the surround sound, and watched Tropic Thunder, which I had not seen in quite a while. But I had it on Blu-ray, so I popped that in. And big movie in terms of sound, Brian. You would love it. Like, it's good for big booms. Yeah.
I like big booms.
I know that about you. So, solid movie, and definitely not an Archer-friendly movie. So, I took the advantage of being home alone for that. And then, speaking of movies, my poster frames arrived, my backlit poster frames. So
yeah, you've been talking about this.
I got those in. I love them. They're fantastic. They light up beautifully. And now I just need to get them hung. So because I spent a good chunk of change on the frames, I do want to get an electrician in to get me some wires run up to where the frames are going to be, so that I don't have anything coming down off the frames in terms of cords, because they do have pretty large transformers between the frame and the plug. So there's not really a lot of good places to hide that. Even if I did some like wire mold, like you still have that box. Like, what do you do with that? So before I can hang them, I do need to get somebody to come in and help me with that. So still in a little bit of a holding pattern, but I'm one step closer to my happy reality. And then Saturday was pretty adventurous. We had taken Archer to a kid's birthday party, as you do.
As we do at this age, yeah.
And it was at All Fired Up, that place where they make the little clay stuff.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So it was that. And while he was there, Shannon and I went over to Home Depot, which she generally hates, but we were doing garden shopping. So she was, she
like
tolerated that.
Except it's not really in Home Depot.
Yeah. We did go in because I needed to get a new knob for our guest room bath faucet to install that. So I got that. I got a new shower.
Like the most thrilling thing to go shopping for.
I know. But it's like that thing has been floppy and useless for like years.
Yeah.
And it's like, a $14 official Delta part. And I'm like, why haven't I done this? And I did it. And I'm like, man, this is so stupid why I waited so long. Because it was to the point where like you didn't even know which end, because it was just so floppy and stupid. Anyway, we got some salvia to plant in the front. And then we saw this lovely shrub that was pruned in the shape of like a kind of a conical tree. And it looked really nice. There was no price on it. There was no other versions of it anywhere else. I asked the guy. He didn't know. He was like, well, do you want it? And I was like, I don't know. How much is it? I don't know. But like, how much do you want? I don't know. So he went to call somebody else. Somebody else came. He's like, I have no idea what this is. What do you think it is? I was like, I don't know.
$5.
Well, eventually I said, I'd like for it to be $25. Because it was probably like a good 4 foot, like it was pretty sizable.
Okay.
And I'm like, I'd buy this for $25. He's like, okay, we'll just go talk to that guy over there, and he'll bring you up for $25. So I was like, heck yeah, $25. Got that. Got some raised bed mix so that I can start planting my veggies this weekend. So yeah, that was delightful. A nice little garden trip there. And then that night we got started over at my brother's for UFC 300. Really early. So these UFC events, they always start early because there's like the early prelims and then the prelims and then the main card. So this started at 6 p.m. and I left his house at 2 a.m.
Wow.
So we were there for like 6 hours, more than 6 hours. It was a long night, but this was UFC 300, so the whole event. Normally we would not get started. Normally we get started at 10 p.m.
Wow. Okay.
Just for the main card.
Okay.
But this time, like because it was number 300, they stacked that whole event from start to finish with fighters that we are aware of and know and are good. Wow. So it was a heck of an event, and we had a couple like jump up and down freak out moments, and those are always great because you never know what you're going to get with those, because some of them can be super boring. But there was one where these two guys who were just known for just really aggressive, crazy fights. One guy was clearly winning, but he's done this thing before where he just points to the center of the ring, tells the other guy, come on, let's just go stand. It had like 10 seconds left. He said, let's just stand here and let's just throw. So, but the other guy was also just a wild man. So he's like, all right, let's do this. And this other guy that's engaging in this is winning already. He could just go to the decision, win his fight. But no, he's like, all right, come on, let's do this. And the other guy said, okay. And they just stood in the middle of the ring and just started just throwing leather.
Gosh.
And somehow, you see the timer 3, 2. And as soon as one hit, the guy who initiated this showdown clocks the other guy, floors him, lights out. With 1 second left to go. So he turned what would have been a decision into like one of the most rowdy, raucous BA moments in MMA history.
Wow.
And he's like the most unassuming looking guy, a pretty lean guy from Hawaii, but yet he's one of the most talented and vicious fighters on the planet. So
wow.
There was that moment. There was a moment where another guy actually got kicked in the athletic cup pretty hard. You could hear it. It was like,
Oh, gosh.
And then so the ref's like coming up, he put the timeout sign. But rather than take the time to recover whatever, he just, without taking his eyes off his opponent, he just pushed the ref away, like, nope, not doing that, and got a knockout in like 5 seconds later.
Oh my gosh.
Like, just after taking a shot right to the cup, it's like, nope, you stay away from me. I've got business to take care of. Wiped him out.
That's crazy.
And then there was
they
another.
They are wired differently than most people.
Absolutely.
Like,
absolutely.
I would never have
And then there was
what it
another
takes to do
time
that.
where a guy got floored, knocked down, and then the other guy just turned around and raised his arms like he had won. But the other guy just behind his back got right back up, and the ref's like, no, keep going. He's like, oh, what? Oh, no. He ended up losing the fight.
Celebrated early?
Yeah. It was like, there was stuff like that happening the whole time. Like, it was just wild.
Wow.
So normally it's not that engaging, but dang, it surely was that night.
Man, so like 8 hours of that straight?
Yeah.
Gosh, that's exhausting.
We
Just
ordered,
like as a spectator.
We ordered food.
Wow.
And, we had snacks, and it is nice. It's just me and my brother. So, like, we grew up together. We can't get tired of each other. And then Sunday, we woke up, had some breakfast, and Shannon had the idea to go to do some mini golf. So we drove out to Bogies and did a little putt.
All right.
And that was nice. And surprisingly, Archer was really good. I was surprised at how much time he was taking, because he's the type of person that gets impatient quickly, but he was taking his time, and he was every bit as good as me or Shannon, if not better, at just like timing his shots and not getting frustrated, not getting impatient. So that was really impressive to see. So that was a lot of fun. And then we, after getting some lunch, we came back home, and Shannon wanted to take a nap, and I just sat down and put in my new Planet Earth 3 disc and watched the first episode of Planet Earth 3, which was about coasts, and listened to David Attenborough both amaze me and make me feel terrible for being a human being affecting climate, and then kind of nod it off a few times. Oh, yeah, I mean, it's beautiful, but then like he says stuff like, oh, yes, and these sea turtles, this is the most popular area for sea turtle egg laying, and this island will be gone in 30 years. Oh, God.
Yes.
That's
yeah.
good. But he showed a clip of like David Attenborough on that same island as like a young fellow in black and white. And he's like, I haven't been to this island in 70 some odd years. I'm like, wait, what? Like, just casually, like, oh yeah, last time I was here was 70 years ago. 70 years. He's 97 right now.
I was going to ask how old
he's
is.
97.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
And he's still doing it.
That's amazing.
I know, right? It's wild. So, that was delightful. I love that series. So it's, the whole set. So I'm eager to watch all the rest of it.
That's cool.
And then we met some friends and their kids at Chewy's for dinner. So got some Mexican. And after that, we just kind of walked around and chatted with them. So that was pleasant. Archer had his school pictures last week. So that's always kind of tricky because, we had bought a shirt for him, but then he woke up, put it on. It was way too big. So we just kind of had to find something else laying around that looked halfway decent. And then he's doing a track running sort of club. I mentioned that to you. This is the first after school physical activity he's ever shown interest in.
Okay.
So at 4th and 5th grade at his elementary school, they kind of offer that, and he's going to be, I guess, running. I don't know, but he asked about it, and Shannon couldn't do it. I'm like, that's fine. I will try to find a way to make this work, because this is he's never shown any interest in this. So I was happy to be able to do that.
It's so crazy. Like at this age, kids will just like get into something, and then that could be like the thing that they do all the time.
Yeah.
Like you just never know.
You never know.
It's
and
crazy.
because he has no interest in team sports, because he hates competition. He does not want to do any team sports. So, but boy likes running. He will just go.
Yeah, I did track in middle school and high school, and I liked that because it was a team sport, but not really.
Yeah.
Like your points get added up as a team, so like a school or whatever.
Oh.
But your event is all, unless you do like you can do a relay, which you have that's like a little more, that's the more team oriented thing. But I did like discus and shot put and pole vault. It's all completely individualized.
Yeah.
So like you're practicing as a group, but then it's all about how you do yourself. But then if you win, it's sort of like the Olympics. It's like your points get added in, kind of a thing. So
that's cool.
It's like a blend of individual and team. So I don't know, maybe that'd be a good balance for him.
I'm interested in helping him do this because he will be out of his after school program after 5th grade. So he won't have anything. And he's got so many friends there. So I'd love to have something else he can do after school to kind of this thing's going away, but you can start doing this,
Yeah.
So we'll see how that turns out. In terms of media absorption, we finished Fargo, so we moved into Shogun on Hulu, which has been fantastic.
Okay.
But we caught up. So we thought that we had paced it out, so we'd be able to start watching it, and then the final episode would be done by the time we're done. No. We've got 2 more, so now we're waiting. So in the meantime, we started the Fallout TV series on Amazon.
Okay.
Which is based on the video game series. I don't know if you've ever heard of Fallout.
I'm vaguely familiar with it.
It's a post-apocalyptic wasteland
Yeah,
sort of
deal. Okay.
Yeah.
That's about all I know of it, though.
But it's got my boy Walton Goggins in it, so I'm always psyched to see him. So we started that, and the intro scene obviously had some nuclear events happening, and that's anxiety-inducing. But
feels a little too present.
Yeah, it was kind of scary, but it's good so far. We're just 1 episode in, so we'll see. And I've been playing the Final Fantasy VII remake again, so that's been my gaming.
In your opinion, what is the best Final Fantasy?
Oh
game?
Man,
I feel like 7 is one that I hear a lot.
But also that's the least cool one to say because it's the most popular one. So some people just refuse to say 7 because it's said so much.
It's too hipster. Yeah.
So, but no, I think that 7 has to be the best one because it was it's the most iconic, the most prolific. It was the one played by the most people. And it's the one that's getting remade now. So you can't really deny that one. But I will say the one I've played the most is a game called Final Fantasy Tactics. Okay. Which is actually, it's kind of like a kind of chessboard style of Final Fantasy, where every character has its own movement radius. Okay. Where depending on if you're a knight, an archer, a thief, or a wizard, you go to move your character on this grid. I mean, it looks like a battlefield with lakes and mountains and trees and stuff. Yeah. But it is a grid also, and you can, if you're a wizard, you might have lesser movement than say like an archer or somebody a little bit more agile. So it's more of positioning your 5 or 6 people versus the enemy 5 or 6 people, and you do more damage attacking from the side or the back than you do the front. So you can take your time with it more. Okay. And each battle is so just quick and digestible. You can just pick it up, play one battle, put it back down. So I find myself revisiting that one more than any other Final Fantasy. But I've played probably maybe half of them.
How many do they have now at this point?
Oh, they're up to 16 now.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's respectable though.
It is. None
Especially
of them
as a video game.
None of them have been final at all.
That is a bit ironic, isn't it?
Yeah. But no, I think they all have their merits.
Okay. Yep. I've never played any of them, but I'm not an RPG guy.
They're different now. They're not turn-based anymore. The 10 was the last true okay, it's my turn. I'm going to attack. Now they attack me. Yeah. Ever since then, it's been some kind of funky hybrid.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. With this new remake, you play as a character, and then you can just switch to another character who is automatically battling when you are not kind of taking control of them. So it's much more active. You're not really waiting around for anything. Okay. Which is cool, but sometimes I like the old school feel. So they're always there for you if you need them.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
What'd you get up to?
Well, my mental health half day was a hodgepodge. It started off a little slow because basically Adam was here. So when we do a half day, we still have mail pickups. So it's we don't want to delay our packages going out to you guys any more than we have to. So we've been trying to coordinate the pickups to be done, when we're all still here, but most of the time that's just not feasible. So somebody usually has to stay later. So Adam was going to stay later, but he's going to take his half day on another day. We've talked about it. It's cool. It's cool working out that way, but they were later than even promised. No. So, and he reached out and he was like, I got to go pick up my kids. He's like, we could just leave stuff through the weekend or whatever. And I was like, I can come and just it's literally
so you came
loading
back to
up.
Work?
Yeah, I came to work.
Dude,
and I worked from home that day too. So it's but it was just
that's super cool.
It was supporting him. It was, it was doing the right thing by our customers. And it was I didn't have any specific plans. So I was and I didn't know exactly what time they would come. You know, so I was like, I'll bring the Steam Deck and I'll just chill and play SnowRunner. So like I was here, but I wasn't like really working.
Nice.
Other than like 5 minutes when they came to pick up the mail. Yeah. So I didn't really view it as that big of a deal, you know. So, you know, I got to do that, and then it was like, I
can't imagine how like wrong I would feel playing video games at work. I would be like, look, like,
I mean, it felt a little weird, but I was like the only one. I was like the only one here, you know. And it's like, because it was the half day, I was like, this is kind of what I'm supposed to use this time for. So I did. I just, you know, enjoyed my time, and then I went home and pulled some weeds and played some saxophone. You know, weed pulling has been my hobby because there is a ton of them.
No more blowtorch.
Well, this is like amongst plants, you know, like in my mulch beds and stuff. Like the weeds are like, they're really, really bad. Like I have not pulled them yet this year. So they were very pervasive, but it's like we've had a bunch of rains. I was like, this is kind of the time to do it. I had Ellie help me a little bit, but then, you know, after a day or two of having to do that, I mean, I've been like pulling weeds every night as my hobby for like a week straight. There's like that many weeds.
Oh my! Would you ever thought about like just like spraying them and then covering their carcasses with mulch?
But they're like amongst other plants. Like I have like monkey grass, and the weeds are like,
they're like
growing up in it and around it.
Oh yeah,
it's like
those.
I can't really.
Dang,
yeah. Just, you know.
So I'm thinking like mine grow in between like shrubs. We don't have like small plants in our bed.
I've got some like that in my backyard.
Yeah.
So that might be more feasible.
I do it the lazy way. I just like spray them until they're dead and then cover them.
I mean, I definitely want to do that now. Now that it's like under control.
Yeah.
But I just let it go too far, and I was kind of like, I have no choice now but to just extract all these things.
Yeah, I have some in my monkey grass too, because we just have that around the mailbox. So I also like went and chopped them all down because they were getting all brown and nasty. So I kind of trim the.
So I've got a gorilla cart, which is like, don't go wheelbarrow, go
That's right.
4-wheeled gorilla cart. It's the big one, the 7 cubic foot one. I filled that thing 7 times, I think.
So how do you push it? Does it have like a wagon handle?
You pull it. You don't push it.
Pull it with like a.
You pull it. It's like a trailer.
Oh, with like a truck.
No, you pull it with your hand.
Oh, really?
But you can take the handle off and you can attach it to the back of a riding lawnmower.
Oh.
So you can use it. So it's like it's a pretty beefy little cart. Right. Yeah, but black plastic, and you can detach it too, so you can lift it up. So if you got a real heavy bed, you can just like sort of lift it up and sort of dump it out. So the wheels stay on the ground, but the bed of the thing kind of goes up. It's a neat little cart. No sponsorship, no advertisement, whatever, but just my own experience. I have put that thing through hell, let me tell you. I've been abusing that garden cart for 5 or 6 years now, and it has held up.
If y'all start getting...
It's expensive, but it's held up. It really has. So that's a really good tool for, like, I do not use my wheelbarrow anymore except to mix cement. That's all I use it for. So the garden cart is my wheelbarrow.
Nice.
So I think I filled that thing like 7 times with all the weeds I pulled. Like, I'm not joking. It was a boatload of weeds to get out of there. But I have a lot of mulch too. I like a mulch area. Yeah. So I actually just got a load of mulch delivered today. Yes. So my new hobby will be spreading mulch. 20 cubic yards is what I had delivered. It is an entire dump truck. So it is a lot. And it's like...
You pitchfork that?
Well, I have the tractor, so that will help a lot. So I can like grab buckets of it and dump it like in the general area of where I'm trying to go. And then I pitchfork it and kind of toss it near the stuff. And then I use the garden rake to sort of finesse it around all the bushes and stuff. So it goes fairly quick, except Joseph doesn't like doing it. Ellie hates the smell of mulch, like hates the smell of mulch. That's like, she talks about it all the time. So it's like a thing. So my kids want to earn money, but it's like, they're very particular about the activities they want to do. And I'm like, this is what work looks like. So
I need to get a garden rake. I use a leaf rake for my mulch, and it sucks.
No, it will make such a world of difference. It will make such a world of difference. Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, it makes a difference.
Yeah,
it makes a difference. Or borrow one from a neighbor. See if your neighbor's got one, because like you probably won't need it all the time.
Yeah,
but like with mulch, it makes.
My neighbor's a sales rep for various drink companies.
Okay.
And every now and then, he used to do Bang Energy, but now he's not doing that. And
nice.
He's doing Electrolit, which is like a like a Gatorade sort of beverage. So I got 2 of those.
Never had one of those.
Yeah, he just gave me some.
Okay. Yeah. That'd be good for doing yard work. Get you all Electrolit up while you're spreading mulch with your leaf rake, You work with what you got. But I mean, it's a little better if you have like bags though, because you can
I'm still
bag
in
and sort
mode.
of spread the mulch close enough to
That's
where you're
what I
trying to
do.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't do that. I'm like,
Did you see any damage from the storm we got yesterday?
we had a heck of a storm.
Yeah.
It was kind of
Did
crazy.
anything come down?
No, nothing major that I can tell where we are. I'm sure on my trails, there's probably like 9 trees down.
It was wild.
It was really crazy. Like our power flickered quite a bit, and we had the kids. We were like, why don't we all come into the center of the house? This is like, because like severe storm, what is it? It's a warning, right?
Yeah.
Not a watch. A watch is like, hey, this might happen. A warning is like,
This is happening.
it's happening.
Yeah.
And it was pretty intense for a good 15 minutes there.
Yeah. Our neighbor had, some branches off his big tree fall, but for whatever reason, the dead tree that I wish fell.
Oh, you want that thing to fall in a big storm?
Well, kind of. I don't know. It really, unless it falls one way, it's going to.
Yeah, that's the thing.
damage.
If it falls in a storm, you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's either going to damage my fence or my porch.
Yeah,
it needs to fall the other way.
That's no good.
It won't damage anything.
That's no good. What we did have though is we have a bunch of like pine trees and stuff like that have these little like seed pod type things. They're sort of like crescent shaped, but they're kind of like fuzzy looking or whatever.
Oh yeah, like fuzzy snow peas.
Yeah, but they're like loaded with pollen.
Oh.
Like loaded with pollen.
I didn't know that. We don't have any of those.
When the storm came, there were like, I'm not joking, probably hundreds of thousands of these things all over our driveway and yard. Like the trees just like blew all those things. Like the storm just blew all those things off the trees, and I was like,
yeah,
that's like, it just like knocked down a ton of the pollen. And I was like, yay.
Nice.
Because the pollen is
get that done early.
Seriously legit around where we are. This weekend was so nice. The weather was so perfect, but I think it was like a 11.6 out of 12 on the pollen count or something. Like Richmond, Virginia is like one of the worst cities in America for allergies.
We are double dosing Archer on allergy meds, and yet still after this weekend, under his eyes was like, he looked like he got punched.
Gosh, that's so crazy.
Poor kid. Like he wears his allergies under his eyes hard.
That's tough. My mom's like that. My mom's got like hay fever and stuff. She will like walk out to the car and be like crying. Like it's just like it hits her so hard.
He wasn't really, his was just really itchy, but like it looked like it was like purple.
Oh gosh,
so bad.
Poor guy.
I know.
Poor guy. So anyway, that's what I'll be doing. That, and then so I don't know, so I've been playing the saxophone. I'm more than halfway to my goals now.
You made it.
I've done 51 hours so far, and I don't know. I'm getting out of the closet on the saxophone a little bit more.
There we go.
Now that I traveled up to visit Rachel's family and had to play outside of my closet there. Not that I'm like afraid to or whatever, but it's just like trying to be respectful. But I think now that I'm like not terrible while I practice, like I feel better about if my family can hear me practicing. It's less like bad sounding.
There's a part of me that really just wants a video of you playing saxophone on a tractor.
I could do that
out in the middle of your yard.
I could make that work.
That encompasses so much of Brian right there.
What's wrong with that?
Also, like, don't you ever wonder, like,
with like Rubik's cubes and
Will you ever do anything and you wonder, like, hey, I'm the only person in my state currently doing this.
Trying this combination of random things.
It's kind of cool to do.
That's
why
I like
crap.
going super niche on a bunch of different hobbies. Yeah. Absolutely.
Like no one else is playing saxophone on a tractor right now.
Probably not. That is a pretty specific activity.
Yeah.
But no, I did play outside though. The weather was super nice. I did. I was like, I'm just gonna go play outside.
That is amazing. Tell me more.
That's
like where? Like
just like outside my kitchen. I've got like a little.
There?
I've got the landing that I built not too long ago.
Just standing outside playing the sax.
Just standing outside.
I love that.
And Rachel had the sunroom. She had the windows open, and so she was kind of right there. And I was like, well, you get to hear me practice. So I like didn't practice my annoying like scales and drills. I practiced like actual songs.
Nice.
And she was like, yeah, you're not terrible. I was
there
like,
you go.
That is encouraging
to hear.
You don't need
to go back into the closet.
I mean, I still will, just because like it is kind of loud and annoying. Saxophone is a really loud instrument. It's kind of like if you play drums, it's like, how long can you listen to that? Even if it's good, it's like you don't want to hear that when you're trying to like relax.
Was it easier on your own ears playing outside?
It was.
Yeah.
It was. It does get a bit loud in the closet.
I can imagine.
The saxophone is pretty loud. Yeah. Sometimes I'll wear like my noise canceling like earbuds and stuff just because I want to protect my hearing. But it's pretty fun. So now I'll like play in my bedroom and I'll close the doors, but like out in the bedroom. It's,
nice.
So I'm venturing out into the world.
Literally.
With the saxophone. Yes. Let's see here. What else? Lots of kid social activities. Like I mentioned, we had so much stuff. Like they each had a sleepover. One was there. Some other kid came here. you know, there was a birthday party here, but some other get together. It was like we were just coordinating Uber driving all weekend with our kids. So that was a thing. And then then like none of us remembered that like, oh yeah, one of these things is a birthday party. So it's like, oh, presents are a thing. So
go to Target.
Yeah, we were like, okay. I think we went to Target like 3 days in a row just because we kept forgetting various things. But the thing I was going to mention, so there was something that I made a note of when we were doing the pen showing thing just a few minutes ago.
Oh, yeah.
That I was like, let me recall this later. And then I forgot what it was. And then I like half remembered it. I think it had to do, so we went to Five Below this weekend. It had to do with that. And now I'm failing to remember what it was about Five Below that I was going to talk about. Darn it.
What about candy? They had a lot of funky candy there.
They have candy. No, it wasn't about the funky candy. I mean, the greeting cards, we had the cheap greeting cards. I feel like there was something else in Five Below.
Knockoff fountain pens?
Oh, yes.
Hey-o.
That's what it was. That was the thing.
You see those Lonnie 2000 pastel looking things?
No.
I've seen those there.
So
not 2000.
I'm kicking myself because I have them at home. I need to bring them in.
You bought them?
So there was a pack, a 6-pack of combination fountain pen and highlighter. So it was like a rainbow pack of these things.
Oh.
And like, you know, it looked like a, you know, like this kind of nib, the like stamped generic kind of a nib thing. But it was like, it looked like it was kind of a disposable, like pre-filled kind of thing. So I was like, how does that work? If it's like highlighter on one end and a fountain pen on the other, it's like, because typically we've used like fountain pen highlighter ink before, like Noodlers has had a few, but like,
yeah.
It doesn't look good in a fountain pen because it's bright and you can't read it if it's like in a nib.
Yeah.
Like it needs to be on like a marker. So I was like, I'm really curious. And it was like $5.
So it's highlighter ink, like neon ink, but with a fountain pen nib.
So I haven't played with these things yet. I just saw the pack and I was like, well, and it's like some unbranded thing. I was like, these things are
Future Pen Spotlight.
These things are likely going to be terrible. But it's like, how often do I see fountain pens out in the wild? So I bought them, and I will let you know how they perform. Probably nothing amazing, but I think what it is, though, I think it's a double-ended pen, but I think it uses cartridges, and I think the cartridges are different for the highlighter and for the fountain pen.
That's what it should be, yeah.
That's what would make sense to me. You know, but also I didn't.
All right. Well, we eagerly await the update there.
We'll see. So I don't know. I'll have to play with those things.
I have seen some Safari knockoffs there. They were kind of like a.
Oh, really? Five Below?
Yeah, it was like a metallic kind of pastel 2-pack. Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, they sell that kind of stuff on like AliExpress and Alibaba and all that. Like anybody could buy, 5,000 of them and package them up and call them whatever. Yep. I'm sure that's what they're doing.
No one called them Safaris. They were just like,
Oh, they were some other random thing.
2-pack. Yeah, but they looked identical.
Yeah, interesting. So that was the thing that I was trying to remember, but then, it reminded me. Let's see here. What else with the kids? We've been playing Cards Against Humanity. You ever played that?
Of course.
Yeah, I never had. We played it like one time at one of my kids' a friend's birthday party, like a couple of years ago.
Some of the cards are not like super.
Well, they have like a family edition.
Oh, okay.
They have a family edition.
Oh, okay. I was about to say that.
Okay. Yeah. They got the family. We got the family edition, and that's been a lot of fun. It's been like a thing that we've been able to play.
I didn't know a family edition existed.
It does.
Okay, good.
There are many, many, many references to poop and vomit and pee and all these things. It's like, think about like being a late elementary, middle schooler.
Excellent.
And just think like that, and it's like, yep.
I'm sure my son would love it.
This all makes sense. Oh, he would love it.
Yeah, we played a lot when it first came out, but the foul, terrible version. But
that would be fun to play, actually. But in a group of adults.
Oh yeah, it
gets pretty raw.
Yeah.
Okay. And as you could probably guess, Rachel just destroys in that game. She's really good at it. The family edition of the Cards Against Humanity.
How do you how do you be good?
Well, so it's like, for those of y'all that don't know how this game works, you have like one card that's like, I don't know, some fill in the blank sort of phrase. It's like a Mad Lib type of thing. So it might be like, I was scared to go to school until blank. Mm-hmm. And then all the cards are just all these random things. One of them was like, I pooped my pants. My teacher put me on a rocket ship. I don't know. Could be all this random stuff. And the person who like reads the card, everybody else gives their cards and they pick which one they like the most. the person that got theirs picked.
So Rachel
gets
just
to keep
gets
that card.
hers picked the most?
Yes, everybody
okay.
likes the one that she puts the most, and she's
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Ellie likes to win everything, and Rachel just wipes the floor.
Interesting.
All of us.
Okay, that's what I expected. I was just like,
when we played last night, I think I got like 2 or 3 of my cards picked, and Rachel had like 17. Like
wow.
it's not even.
So she's just really clever with her combinations.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yep.
Wow.
And she can judge the person too, like who, because you're like sort of pandering to what would appeal to the person that's picking it, you know?
Okay, yeah, that's the way I play. I guess I wasn't sure if maybe y'all were like, if there was like some scoring element to the other version or something.
Not
like
really.
That. Okay,
we keep it pretty simple.
Yeah.
So it's not really about who wins. It's really just there to have fun. Mm-hmm. And then we got some new game called Tapple. So it's like,
it's a board game.
It's sort of a board game. It's not. There's no board involved.
But not like a video game.
No. Okay. It's a physical game. But like you have a bunch of letters, and it's got like a buzzer of some sort. And you have a card that gives you a topic. It might be like types of fruit. And you go around and take turns, and you have to say something that starts with one of the letters that's on this little roundabout thing. You tap the letter, and then you say your thing, and then the next person has to come up with it with the letters that are remaining. So it starts out pretty easy, but then as you narrow down
what's
to
remaining?
The letters, and then the buzzer runs out, and then that person's out, and all that kind of thing. And I am terrible at this game. Literally just terrible. I was really tired when we played it last night too. So like we would have fruits and there would be like 14 letters left. And I'm just like, I can't think of any fruits that start with any of these letters. And then the buzzer runs out and I'm like, I quit.
I'm not good at those
any
games
like
either.
Word-based type games.
I'm
like
the same way.
I'm so bad.
What's the one where you have to like come up with all the words that start with the letter?
Categories.
I'm terrible at that.
I'm not great at that either.
It's something about like my brain just doesn't pull all the things quick enough.
Yeah.
Like I'm just.
Some people are really good with words, not as good with math. Some people are really good at math. Some people are more visual, aesthetic, not as good with like abstract word verbiage, that type of thing.
I'm better at like, a Pictionary, things like that kind of like illustrative.
Yeah. I think I've learned I'm not good at most board games. I lose a lot.
Yeah, me too.
Like to my kids,
I also get impatient and I lose interest really quickly.
That doesn't help.
That's one reason why I don't really like board games, because like my brain can't. No.
Yeah.
And I forget instructions as soon as I learn them.
Yeah, that's kind of tough too.
Yeah.
I don't like games that are like overly complex, but I like the games like the Cards Against Humanity where it's like it's more about having fun.
Yeah.
Like categories is kind of torturous because you're just like, you feel like you're taking a test.
Yeah.
And then you're failing every time.
Timed test.
A timed test. And I'm like, this is not
Cards
fun.
Against Humanity is fantastic.
What was it? Scrabble? Is that what it's called? Yeah, Scrabble.
Yeah.
That was the worst.
I suck at that.
It's like you have to do both a lot of words and math.
Yeah.
It's a great game. I'm just terrible at it.
Me too.
It's exhausting.
Yeah. I don't have a terrible vocabulary, but I can't put them together.
Yeah, with like limited letters and stuff. I get the appeal, but
my grandmother
I can't do it.
Amazing at that.
I'm sure it's the kind of thing, the more you do it, the better you get and the more fun you have.
My grandmother was the keeper of the Scrabble dictionary.
Oh,
so she would play words that no one else knew.
Yeah.
And she's like,
always challenging. And all that kind of
Duple's
stuff.
a word? Like, yep, it's in the Scrabble dictionary. I'm like, really, Mimi? Duple? She's like, yeah, look it up. Boom, duple.
Like, are you officially challenging me? Because
don't challenge Mimi.
Yeah.
Don't challenge Mimi.
You'll lose. She
knows.
There you go. Let's see here. What else? I mentioned all the mulch and stuff that I'm doing in the yard. Also, this goes back a little ways. I mentioned this one time, but like my parents were like redoing a lot of the plants. Stuff was really over. They had moved to a new place and they'd inherited all these plants that were like getting really overgrown. So they got rid of a whole ton of stuff. It was one of those things that kind of escalated quickly. I went over and I was like, oh, I can help you remove a couple of plants, and like maybe I can plant them somewhere. It ended up being 26 like full grown like bushes and stuff like that.
Right, yeah.
And it was like a couple of loads of like truck and trailer. And I like wasn't all that prepared to receive that many. So I was like, I now have like 26 plants that are like, they need to be planted. Like they're going to die if I just leave them. So I had this one super long day months ago. This was like fall last year, where I was working until like 10:30 at night planting these plants after I'd harvested them all from my parents' place. Well, I was like, the reason I rushed like that and was like, I got to get these things in the ground or else they're going to die. Well, I'm happy to report, I think every single one of them has survived. Wow. And they're like now blooming.
Well done.
All this kind of stuff. So I'm like, I don't know much about plants. I kill most plants that I have.
Shrubs are hardy.
Yeah, that's what I figured. But like, I didn't have much of a plan of where I was putting these things. I didn't do any special soil. I was like, I got to just dig a hole and shove this thing in the ground. And that's whatever happens, happens.
Heck yeah, man.
And I think all of them have taken root. And I'm like, that's kind of amazing. So I don't know. Got a shiz load of plants now that now I have a ton of mulch I got to spread around these plants. And now there's tons of weeds. I don't know. It's a whole thing. I guess I'm an outdoor person doing this stuff.
You have
Brian's accidental outdoor adventures.
Level of just kind of painful tenacity that I just cannot wrap my head around. Like, being so dedicated to getting all of these shrubs in the ground that night. Yeah. Like, I don't have that. I'd be like, no, I thought this was a good idea. I don't now. They're going in the woods.
Oh, so like, I can't.
No, you can't.
I can't do that.
You are just like, I don't know what it is, but you have
stubbornness.
Well, it's like a
tenacity is a more positive way to spin it.
It is. It's tenacity. It really is tenacity.
Yeah, I work on momentum. So if I'm like already rolling on a project, I'm like, I want to get this thing done.
You also get like encouraged by impending defeat. Like if something looks like it's not going well, you're like, whoa, well, I'm gonna show you.
Yeah,
like
I do fail a lot though with things like that. I do take on too much, and then I'm like, yeah.
But you know what? I bet that makes the victories even sweeter.
It does,
because it's kind of like a come from behind underdog victory.
I'm also like very project driven. Mm-hmm. So if it's something like the mulch thing, like it's a lot of mulch, but it's like it's not done, and then I'll do it, and then it's done, and I can see very clearly like before and after, and that kind of stuff motivates me. So yeah, for better or for worse, that is how.
Well, I mean, I guess there might be also a part that you don't get to see as much of that in running a business. A lot of your actions kind of have like a delayed effect. Like, is this thing that I did helpful? Like, we'll see.
Right.
So in your personal life, you might actually be seeking out these like immediate gratification. Like,
for sure.
That's the thing I did.
For sure. I think that's a big part of it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just tangibly seeing work that I've accomplished.
Yeah.
It was a nice change sometimes. And then last thing I have, I didn't watch Saturday Night Live. I believe Ryan Gosling was on.
The Beavis and Butthead thing?
I didn't watch the Beavis and Butthead thing, but the Papyrus skit.
Didn't see that one.
Oh my gosh.
Shannon showed me the Beavis and Butthead thing, though. I laughed out loud because it kept breaking.
I saw that it was a thing, and I need to look at it. Yeah. But no, the Papyrus skit, so there's a backstory to this. So Rachel's sister was a photographer, videographer, graphic design kind of background. So we have like an inside joke about Papyrus in our family.
The font.
Yes, the font Papyrus, because like everybody uses it because it's like sort of tribal looking, but it's also like overused so much that it's like, very much that kind of thing. So
it's right up there with Comic Sans.
Right. So when the original skit came out like 6 years ago, it's this very highly produced, dramatized skit that Ryan Gosling did about the Papyrus font being used for the Avatar logo.
Oh yeah.
And there's a whole story within the skit.
I have seen that. I've seen the original one.
So they did a follow-up to it, and it is amazing. Amazing. It's like a movie. There's like a whole storyline, depth of characters. It's very like highly, highly acted.
I'll have to watch that.
It's fantastic. It like made my whole weekend.
Because
the original skit, it's such an obtuse thing that like you can tell it's like just nerds making stuff for nerds on like mainstream TV. Like that, it's rare that happens to begin with. But then they did a follow-up with it, and I was like, oh, this is just, yes, there are like good people in the world doing things like I feel seen by like nerd people creating this kind of stuff, and it just like made my whole weekend. So
I'll put that on the list because we also have on the list to watch Conan O'Brien's Hot Ones episode, which I've heard
I watched it.
I can't wait.
Holy crap. It was, I can't even describe it. I was like, I saw it come up in my feed, and I was like, oh, like I watched a lot of Hot Ones. I was like, oh, Conan's pretty funny. Boy,
I know.
I was not ready for it.
I can't wait.
You got to watch it.
Oh, we will. Yeah.
You got to watch it. Conan, man, that guy, he was in rare form.
I saw some clips. Like, he's insane. He went berserk.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It's pretty. I watch a lot of Hot Ones.
Me too.
I think that's my favorite one. Like,
we've probably seen about a third of all the episodes, and there are a lot of episodes.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah. So we've seen a lot.
This one was pretty.
That's like what we do.
Good.
If our show finishes and we're not quite ready for bed, we'll like throw in a Hot One to kind of like fill in that good.
Yeah.
Time. So that's a go-to for us. A very frequent go-to.
Right, cool. Well, you will enjoy the Conan one.
I'm certain we will.
Don't watch that one right before bed. You gotta like, that's like more like main. It's not like a dessert thing. It's like an entree. You
Nice.
gotta watch
Okay.
that in more like prime time.
Will do.
Because it's that good.
Nice.
It's that good. Oh, that's really funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's what I'm up to. It's doing fun stuff. Working a lot.
Solid.
Yep. Cool. All right. I think that's pretty much it for us. We'll wrap this thing up, and then I got some fun Earth facts for you. Well, I want to thank everybody for watching. Please leave us some feedback. Let us know how we're doing. Check out gouletpens.com, fountain pens, ink, paper, all that stuff that we talk about all the time. And I got some fun facts. There's somewhat of a theme, but it is a bit of a hodgepodge of stuff. So I'm just going to read off my hodgepodge of facts. So we got Earth Day coming up. Earth Day actually has a theme every year. I didn't know that, but I read that on the Earth Day website. So this year's theme for 2024 is called Planet versus Plastics. So a lot of the information on their website is about plastic waste and stuff like that, which was informative and incredibly alarming / depressing. So their whole theme with the planets versus plastic thing is a call to reduce plastic waste by 60% by 2040, which is not that far away. So yeah, it's I'm not going to spout off all the facts they had on there, but they had a lot of facts about how much plastic there was, and it was kind of amazing. And I was thinking about that because I've read some stuff about how many pens are thrown away every year, disposable pens. They didn't have this on their website, but elsewhere I found Americans dispose of 1.6 billion plastic pens every year. That's a lot of pens.
Not these guys.
Not us. I never throw any pens out.
That's true.
I probably should, but yeah, I do think about that, because it's like, that's a lot of freaking pens. Yeah. So
I should probably stop using so many ink samples though.
Well, you can save the vials and reuse them.
I do.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
You do. Yeah. So anyway, there's other stuff. Other random facts, like an estimated 9.7 billion cigarette butts are littered in the U.S. every year. 4 billion of these in waterways. So that's cool.
That's one Sagan unit.
Yeah, that's right. Billions and billions. They comprise nearly 20% of all litter, cigarette butts.
What? Even still?
Yeah. Cigarette butts are terrible.
I know, but I feel like smokers, like there are fewer smokers every year, and 20% is still a surprisingly large amount.
A lot of butts.
Wow.
A lot of butts.
That's too many butts. Even Sir Mix-a-Lot wouldn't approve of that.
And I don't understand how it's socially acceptable to just be throwing cigarette butts around. Like, it's all, like, even as I was a kid, I was just like, this is awful. Why are we throwing fire sticks on the ground like it's supposed to be there? Like, it's not good for the environment.
There are plenty of socially unacceptable things that people still do.
Just dispose of them appropriately, or just don't smoke, because it's not good for anybody.
No.
Anyway, all right. My other fact that I had, which actually was not related to Earth Day at all. I was going to say it last week, but I was like, oh, let me save that one.
You did.
So I heard this little thing. So Drew, would you guess, are there more stars in the universe or more trees on Earth? That is the question. I have numbers for you.
All right. Well, so you're saying stars that we know of, right?
Stars
that we have logged and counted.
Not logged and counted necessarily, but estimated. Like, even with the JWST telescope and all that, like, because you can see, like, even looking at like the stuff you can't even see in the pitch black, and then estimating how many galaxies are actually hidden out there.
All right,
they estimate how many stars. It's a lot of stars.
I'm guessing that because this is a fun fact, the answer will be trees, because I think that the normal
we do talk about astrophysics and star stuff too.
I'm gonna go.
I picked this question because I was like, oh, we kind of talk about both.
It would surprise me if it was trees, so I'm gonna say trees. So, scientists estimate between 100 and 400 billion stars in the universe. That's a lot. Mm-hmm.
That's a lot. But they estimate that there are 3 trillion trees on Earth. So it's not even close.
What?
3 trillion trees on Earth. Of course, this is an estimation.
Wow.
But yeah, there's a lot of effing trees on this planet.
The only reason I would have guessed that is because of just the way you worded the question. Otherwise, there's no way I would have believed that. That's insane.
Isn't that crazy?
That's wacky.
That's a lot of trees.
That's a wacky business.
But we should still love our trees. It doesn't mean we can just like, oh, whatever, who cares? There's so many trees.
I do love our trees. I planted a little Japanese maple last year in a little pot, and of course it dropped all of its leaves in the winter, and I'm just hoping it came back, and it did, and it's so cute with its little red leaves.
Yay.
I love it.
See, I say that they're like 3 trillion trees. So like your dead tree that you need to take down, it's like, that's okay.
Okay,
It's lived
makes me
its
feel
life.
better.
It's lived its life.
All right.
Another little fun fact here. So pencils, are made of wood, generally speaking. Generally speaking, one tree makes about 170,000 pencils.
Wait, say that again.
One tree will make 170,000 pencils. And it's estimated that they cut down 82,000 trees every year for making pencils.
Jeez.
So I haven't done the math on that, but whatever 82,000 times 170,000.
That's a lot of pencils.
Let me just do that.
I wonder what the
super
most
quick.
common tree used for pencils is.
I didn't. So if I was going to like deep dive and actually answer that, I would have definitely looked that up. That is a lot of pencils. Let's see here. So that's 1,000, million, billion. That's almost 14 billion pencils every year that are produced by those numbers that I was using. 14 billion pencils a year. That's a lot of pencils. I guess that kind of makes sense. Cedar's used a lot. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
They say coniferous trees,
Yeah.
pines and spruces.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because you got to like have it that's strong enough, but also can be shaved, like to be sharpened and stuff like that. Like you can't use all types of wood for that.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
I feel like, never mind. I'm not going to talk about wood because I have no idea what I'm talking about.
That's okay.
I feel like they're less splintery. Like they're more, they seem more tight. Like cedar seems like a very, nope, see, I shouldn't have said it.
I don't know. Well, I was gonna say, I don't know if it's less splintery.
I feel like whenever I see cedar broken, it's usually cleaner looking, I guess. I don't know. Not as like jagged and rippy, but
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We've got a cedar in our backyard.
There's a lot of different types of cedar.
I
too.
wish it was happier because it only grows branches on one side of it.
Yeah.
Because it's like one side is completely in shadow because our neighbor's abandoned lot is just no sunlight. So I'm like, I like the tree, but I wish it was happier and more full.
I've got a really big pine tree that's sort of like that. It was like on the edge of these woods, and I like cut out some of those trees next to it to put my sheds in there. So now it's nice and open above the sheds, but still because of everything that was there, I have this huge tree and all the branches are on one side of it, and the other side is just nothing. Yeah, it looks really weird.
And then the side with the branches, the needles are still so far away. Like it's just stretching and stretching to get the sun. I'm like,
that's what they're doing, man.
Buddy, I feel bad for it.
That's what they do.
But I can't make it happy without killing other trees. So sorry, bud.
You know what's also crazy? So the American chestnut tree is part of like what built this country, which they had a blight in the early 1900s, and there's like basically none of them left. I heard that, when they were thriving, the chestnut trees were basically like the trees that we have around here, like the pines and oaks and all that, like maybe like 80, 100 feet tall at their peak. The American chestnut would be probably like another 50 feet above that. So they were like 150 feet tall. So just imagine an entire another canopy of trees above our current canopy. That's essentially what the American landscape was like with the chestnut.
That makes me sad.
Yes, it is very sad because that was like one of the, like most of the older structures that built this country back in the pioneering days, a lot of that was chestnut.
I can personify trees really quickly and get really sad about it without a lot of effort, and I kind of don't like
That's
it.
That's okay. There's 3 trillion of them, so they're plentiful, and they're living, and they're they're doing their thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you know how old the oldest trees are? They are known as some of the oldest living organisms on the planet.
Yeah. I've read about this, but I've
Methuselah,
forgotten.
you probably heard of Methuselah. That's one famous tree.
There's California. The one, I remember there's that one story about the scientist who took a core sample of one of the oldest trees and killed it. And then,
he like cut it down. Yeah. Back before they...
Oh, right. Because he couldn't take a core sample because his thing broke. So he cut it down, realized it was like 2 million years old.
This is back before scientists cared about saving
Yeah, so he went and studied salt flats for the rest of his life. But they're like older than mountains.
Yeah, not quite that old, but I think the oldest currently living tree or one of the oldest is like 4,800 years old.
Jeez.
That's crazy. Think about that. That's like before the pyramids were built. Maybe that timeline's wrong, but it was a long freaking time ago.
Yeah.
I think that might be right though. Pyramids are about 4,500 years old, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe? Or is it like 4,500? I'm not quite so sure.
If it's a number, it doesn't work in my brain.
Yeah. Anyway, more fun facts than you ever wanted in your life. But that's what we got for you this week. Thank you so much for watching, and right on.